Yes, Sundaram, we can start.
Okay, Suhas, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from the respective places you are joining and watching it. First of all, I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Talklify. Thanks for taking your time to attend this event and showing interest to learn something new from our speakers today. Before getting into the session, I would like to share few words about this data platform conference and about our community as well. As many of you may know about our community, which is Talklify, we are primarily focused on Microsoft tech stacks. And we have another community called NG Kerala, which is only for Angular. And every month, last Saturday, we are organizing events on NG Kerala community. About this event is like this is the first episode of Data Platform Conference, and this is the first time we are organizing this, and every year we are planning to organize this conference. Due to this pandemic situation, we are organizing this time as a virtual. Once we are back to normal situation, we will be organizing it as an in-person event as well. So we are super excited to meet you all in person as well. Okay, and this community event, that is Data Platform Conference, is not only organized by us. We have community partners as KMUG and Yes Infotech as well. So thanks to the community organizers for showing interest to be as a community partner for us. Today, we have good count of speakers. So the first session will be handled by Liji Thomas. She'll be taking the session on the topic knowledge mining with Azure Cognitive Service, and followed by Liji. Next is Vignesh May, who will be taking a session on the topic Azure SQL Server and its overview, and then by Gowtham, he will be taking a session on the topic Let's Explore Azure Tables Storage. And then Muralidharan, who will be taking a session on the topic Getting Started with SQL Machine Learning Services with Python. And then finally, Suhas, who will be taking a session on the topic Top 5 Dev Tools to Manage your Azure SQL Database. So these are our speakers. And if you have any other queries, please drop it in our comment session. We will pick it up one by one at end of each session. And our community is open for our speakers. So if you are interested to become a speaker, or if you want to be part of our community, please contact either me or Suhas, or else drop your message into our official handle. We will have a chat with you, and then we can pick your topics and all. So please, if you are interested, please join in this community as well. So without much delay, let's get started into the session. So over to you, Liji.
Yeah, thank you, Sundaram. And welcome everyone to this Data Platform Conference 21. And I'm glad you took some time off your Saturday morning to join us for this conference. And thank you for making time for my session. We will be dealing with knowledge mining and specifically Azure Cognitive Search. So let me start sharing my screen here. And let's see. Yes. I hope that is visible to all of you. All right. So let's get started. A little bit about myself. I'm a technical manager with Velorum Reply. We're a US based MNC, but we have an office here in Kochi in Kerala where I work out of. And my key focus areas technically is on the Microsoft stack, specifically around Azure AI. I work a lot around conversational AI and cognitive services. And cognitive search is this is my first speaking session on this. Actually, not my second, probably. And some of the things that I'm passionate about otherwise is problem solving, tech for good, well, it's like AI for good. And I love building great teams, working in great teams, and I literally live in books. So that's about me. And if you'd like to stay connected, I'm on LinkedIn, a little lazy on Twitter, and I have a blog as well. That's at ligithomas.com. So here's going into for today. The challenge with search: multiple data sources, multiple data files and formats. And it's such a messy world out there that you literally spend all your time searching for a needle in the haystack. So, what is the problem statement? Between 60 to 80% of the data that we are searching for is unstructured. What that means is it is not in a structured format, not the kind of structure that you would expect out of something that you will see in an SQL table or of the likes. So insights say that if you're searching between 60 to 80% of the data and that is unstructured, you will most likely face one of these situations. You might spend a lot of time tracking down or looking for documentation, manuals, reports, guides, multiple documents across multiple files, and this may be on your day job. You may have some of these documents stored across multiple repositories. It could be on premise, it could be in the cloud, it could be on SharePoint, it could be in email. You could have a lot of developer effort and time if you needed to build a product from scratch, if you needed to build a solution from scratch. And this may be for your organization, it may be for your customer, it can even be for yourself. Imagine you have a custom website or your custom blog and you need to implement a search service for that, and search is probably the first feature that any person on that site would go to. If you had to build this from scratch, and if your data sources were so disparate and so different in nature and in file formats and in their sources, maybe a solution you can look at is Azure Cognitive Search. And why? Because knowledge mining is about finding or digging the real value from that existing information, and particularly unstructured information. So let's talk about what knowledge mining is for a minute. Knowledge mining is, simply put, taking unstructured information and giving it structure. And why we need to give it structure is because that's what machines like. Making it machine friendly is about giving and adding a structure around it. And once we add that structure, the machines will be able to parse it, index it, query it, and will be able to answer the questions that you ask of it of that data. So this is our problem statement. Where does Azure Cognitive Search fit into this? It is a cloud search service. You can think about it as search as a service. What it provides for developers like you and me is that it provides an entire architecture, APIs, and the tools to build this custom search service. And this rich search experience is able to support all the kind of heterogeneous content that we just discussed right now. Where can you plug this? You can use this in your web applications, in your mobile applications, or in your enterprise applications. It could be your chatbot applications, your websites, your desktop applications as such. So before we go into details of what Azure Cognitive Search does or what it is, let's compare and contrast that with a couple of other Microsoft solutions in this space, because we might be familiar with a few of these and we might ask ourselves, so what exactly is the difference between this and cognitive search? If you're familiar with Microsoft Search, that is also a set of services that are available. It's an offering available from Microsoft. But to be able to use Microsoft Search services, you need to be an authenticated M365 user. So only if you have that level of authority would you be able to access M365 content, Microsoft 365 content. Bing search is at the other end of the spectrum. So that is what the Bing search engine, the bing.com, makes use of. So you can use those services or Bing APIs to go out and crawl all these publicly available domain websites, and that will be available for you. Interestingly, Azure Cognitive Search that we are covering today is also the based a little on Bing search, because both these teams have worked together, and we've literally taken a little bit of the learnings and the concepts of Bing search and applied it, so to speak, in the Azure Cognitive Search space. So we're not going all out to crawl the public websites, but the same concepts and the same, you would see the results rather, is also available from your set of data, the private data that you want to hold close to you. And lastly, DBMS search. So if you look at it, even the large databases like SQL and Server and all have got database searches, but that is again around the structured database or structured content. Now, one thing I have not covered in this slide, but I get asked quite often is, how would you compare and contrast it with other search services, like, for example, Elasticsearch, which is a great search service. It's a very powerful and very well used, a widely used search service. So the difference between cognitive search and Elasticsearch, even if you browse online, you'd see that there are differences in terms of its capabilities, in the number of languages that it supports and the number of search parameters it supports, etc. But we look at some of the major differences that actually allow cognitive search to stand out as a cloud search service feature. So what do you get out of Azure Cognitive Search? One, all that you need or you expect from a search engine, and that includes more than just mere search, right? So if someone comes and uses the search service, he or she would expect to be forgiving of the typos, be forgiving of the errors, might want autocomplete, might want you to understand synonyms, location specific search. So everything what a modern user wants out of a search engine is promised to you by Azure Cognitive Search. Secondly, the power of Azure. So obviously you can scale up and you can build reliable web services worldwide, and you can make this available for your users or customers worldwide if you leverage the power of Azure. And then, of course, there are security features and text capabilities, language capabilities that make this a globalized service that can be used across the borders. So before we go into the demo, which would be the meat of the presentation, let's spend some time to look at the concepts that are around the Azure Cognitive Search. As boring as theory could be, it's important for us to just spend a few minutes to just talk about the theory behind, the concepts behind what a search service entails. So simply put, at one end of the search service, now this probably will be applicable to any search service in the world, right? So on one side, you have your data. And that could be on-prem, it could be on cloud. Now the other side, you have your applications, right? Your applications that want to search through this data. Now, these applications, again, can be your web applications, your mobile applications, your chatbot applications, or any of that kind. And between these two sits your search service. For example, in our case, your Azure Cognitive Search. And again, at a very high level, there are two major modules in this. One is an indexing engine, and another one is a query engine. So we will go into details of what an indexing engine does and what a querying engine does. But again, at a higher level, you would understand that there are two essential functions that this cognitive search does. It would index all the data, and that is the function of the indexing engine. And once the querying engine does its job, the applications will be able to query out the data. Now let's take a deep dive into this centerpiece. So we talked about data that is available on cloud or on-prem. Again, that data can be of various sizes. It can be structured data, it could be unstructured data. When you talk about unstructured data, that means it could be your images, your audio, your video, your PDF files, and different kinds of unstructured data. Now, depending on where your data, you can bring your own data into this service, and it goes through a process that is called data ingestion. And what data ingestion does is it literally ingests all your data, post which that data is now, that unstructured data is now indexed. So when you apply a search index to that, that is the key to converting that into a structured form of data, which you can query. But the icing on the cake, as you might have just seen, is the one on the right side, where you can apply extra capabilities over and above your simple index. These are what are called cognitive services. So if you're not familiar with cognitive services, this is also an offering from Microsoft. This allows developers like you and me to actually query, to build applications that can see, that can hear, that can speak, and that can literally understand. So those are AI capabilities that are made available to the developer community through the concept of democratization of AI services. You don't need to understand the nuts and bolts of what's happening inside those black boxes, but these are simple APIs that we can use to enrich our applications with AI capabilities. So that's what cognitive services are. But cognitive services have now been brought into Azure Cognitive Search. So just for your information, this offering earlier used to be called Azure Search. But with the addition of cognitive services, it has now come to be called Azure Cognitive Search. So now you know the cognitive bit in that. So this is at a level 2 of what happens within the Azure Cognitive Search. Now let's block this out a little further before we go into the demo next. So these are the 3 stages. So this is exactly what happens in an Azure Cognitive Search experience. The data is now coming in. It could be a structured or unstructured data. Documents are now cracked. So you can imagine that as just cracking open a nut. I mean, if you like any nuts like pistachio or something, and you can imagine how much effort it takes to just crack open the nut. It's almost as similar to that. It cracks open your document and it gets all the data out of that. It can apply cognitive skills. Again, that's not a mandatory step. It's an optional step. If you would like to apply those skill sets, you may even build your own custom skills and enrich your documents, post which you get your search index that is available for exploration or for query. So ingest, enrich, and explore. So these are the major steps that are involved, and we will see how this actually works in a demo. So this is what we're going to do in our demo. We're going to be creating a search service in Azure. If you have an Azure subscription, that's great, or you can even get started on a free Microsoft Azure subscription today. You'll get a few credits, and you can try this out today. We're going to create a search index, which means that we will have to import data. We will create a search index, and then we will see how to query that index. All right, so time for the demo, and I will just switch to my Azure portal as well. Okay, cool. I hope you can see my portal. So this is the Microsoft Azure portal, and if you're in your dashboard, how you would go about creating a resource is at the top left corner. You have other ways in which you can access this as well. I'm going to create a resource, and I'll simply search for search, and let's see what comes up. So the first result is in Azure Cognitive Search, and this is the resource that we want to create. We want to create an Azure Cognitive Search. Now, I go ahead and click create, and it will ask me details regarding my subscription, my resource group, and all. Specifically with regards to Azure Cognitive Search, it would ask you for the name of your Azure Cognitive Search and probably the location that you want to host it at. That's it. So it takes a while for the resource to be deployed. And so I have that already created to just save us some time. And this is what my resource looks like. You hit create, fill in all that data, submit, and then takes a while. And this is what I get. So let's see. On my screen, I see a lot of options here. What I would like to get started with is, as we discussed, just import the data. So I have, imported data and created the indexes, as I said, but let me show you around what is actually possible. If you look at the existing data sources, you have a lot of data sources that you can get started with. You might have an existing SQL DB. You might have a Cosmos DB or a blob storage. So what would happen is, if you would, for example, if I had to select a blob storage, it would ask me for a couple of details, which includes the connection to my blob storage, or where in Azure is my blob storage hosted. So if I connect to that, then it's as good as that. And what I have used for this exercise is I've used some sample data sources that was also available off the box from Microsoft. And there were 2 samples that were available, a real estate sample and a hotel sample. So I've used their real estate sample, which has got a lot of data already in that. So I didn't have to bring my own. Let's see what's available from that. So as you said, as we discussed in our deck, the first part is to connect to your data. I've told it to pull it from my sample data source. The next step is to add cognitive skills. And as you would note, this is an optional step. So it's not mandatory that you need to add your cognitive services, because adding cognitive services might require you to create a cognitive services resource as well. There are some enrichments that are available out of the box. These are some of the areas you can extract people names, you can extract organization name, location names, and all of this. And one other section which is maybe of interest to you is that all of this, what we are doing, so you don't leave it in the index itself, it can be stored into a knowledge base, because it's taking all this time to enrich and to build up your data, and you can save it to a knowledge store if you'd like. Again, not mandatory. So I'm going to skip adding any cognitive skills for this time, and I'm going to go directly to creating my index. So that's what is going to help me query. Now, if you note in this pane, you will see that these are the fields that are available in my data source. And for each of those fields, I can choose to configure which would be retrievable, filterable, sortable, etc. And if I deem a couple of these fields, like I may not be interested in the German description or the French description at this point in time, so I can leave that out, and so on and so forth. So I have a lot of fields that I can take from. And then once all that is done, I would just create an index. Again, hit create, and then the indexer would be created. So that's how I have arrived at this index that I'm showing you now. I think I was a little quick on that. So once I have created that, I can come back here, and in my indexes section, I see a lot of these indexes that I've created. So this is the index that we just created based on the data we imported. So within this, I have an explorer where I can just explore and see what the data is. For example, I just hit a star, so you can see the tons of data that is available. And you can use the OData expressions to query out the data here. I want the top 10. I can do filtering, sorting, searching, and whatnot. So, and you have your APIs that you can call, and you can test it out in Postman. You have .NET SDK's REST APIs, wherein you can tap into this, and you can pull this results of the search service into your custom applications as well. Because we may not have the time to do that today, I will invite your attention to this one step here. If you can see, this is create a demo app. So that's a great feature from Microsoft, where you can just, with one button click, you will get the output of this entire search service in a UI, in a very nice UI format for you to browse over. So I'm building that a single HTML page here, and it allows me to choose, what my search results should look like. So I would say, let me see a thumbnail, let me see a city, I'd like to see the description, and it will also give me the option to build a sidebar. Now, this is outside your cognitive search capabilities. It just is to, better the experience for developers like us, that it's providing a demo app. And so I can choose what all appears in the sidebar, and so on and so forth, and just create the demo app. So this is what the demo app looks like. So once you create the demo app, and it allows you to download the demo app, it's a simple HTML page, but this is what it looks like. So whatever you did inside the search explorer, you can even search inside this demo app. So you have a quick feeling of, how your search results would look like. And, this is the sidebar that I've created if I want to drill down and see other results, etc. So at a very high level, of so many, out of the box, so many great features that are available from cognitive search. Okay, so coming back to our deck, we saw the basic capabilities of cognitive search, but the real power of cognitive search, as you said, or probably the differentiator factor for cognitive search, is its ability to extract insights even from unstructured data, right? So if you have a huge PDF file, for example, again, these are the different file formats that it supports. But say, for example, you have a PDF file, it might be a combination of text and images and metadata and whatnot. And it will be helpful in certain use cases to be able to apply cognitive services on over and above this and extract certain elements of that document, like language or people or organization or whatnot. So here's a demo with that, and we may not build this from scratch, but I can just give you my little use case that I have in this regard. So I have a set of these speaker cards that are created by these fabulous organizers of mine across all these talks that I present. So this is the one for Talkify. And so these are some of the other speaker cards that have been created by all my splendid organizers. And I host these speaker cards as part of my website, in my website. Now, it's always a tedious job to go into the speaker cards and then extract information out of that. The search service, a normal search service, may not be able to do a fine job with this. Now, what I did with Azure Cognitive Search is interesting. I'm actually still building out this feature, but I wanted to show you the results thus far. So, like we discussed, one of the things that we did is I can go back to my real estate search service, and I also build another index, just the same way that we built this one. And I got all the data from that, the speaker cards into this. Now, how I did that is I imported the data into my Azure Blob. And if you remember, Azure Blob was one of the data sources that was supported. I connected that to my Azure Blob data. I created an index, but this time I chose to include the cognitive service, add enrichments over and above the data to enrich my documents. Just made sure all of those checkboxes were also checked, the ones that we left the last time, and included it was also a capability to enable OCR. So when you include OCR capabilities, the search service is now able to see and read through even your images. Now, how cool is that? So here again, I created a demo app because I'd rather like to see that in action than using a search explorer. So again, very crude capability, but let me show you what I have thus far. So this was my real estate, and I'm building this out, but you can see that the search service is able to actually extract data from those images, right? It can extract locations and organizations, done one at Belgrade, in Kerala, in Bangalore. So it is able to read and understand the data within that. And probably one day when I'm done with this, I will go live with that. So you can think about, creative cases where you can actually employ these kinds of Azure Cognitive Searches if required to enhance or to enrich your search features. So again, we've just scratched the surface in terms of the capabilities of Azure Cognitive Search. There are some really good case studies and really good use cases by enterprise applications that have put this into use. One of the earliest use cases that came out was a couple of years back when they got just started with Azure Cognitive Search, right? So if you've heard the story before, please take a pause, but I love telling this to people who are just new to this space. So in 2017, the US government opened up the JFK assassination files. It was a set of files that contained all details regarding the JFK assassination reports and the workings around that. And this is a lot of data, like about 34,000 pages of data, which you can imagine if for a manual researcher to go through all that data would take a tedious amount of time. Because this was available in public domain, Microsoft engineers took a stab at that, and they used all the capabilities of Azure Cognitive Search that we just discussed till now to extract information out of that. And they received some interesting insights. This site is available for you to go and take a look at if you're interested. So that's JFK. I will leave the link in our section, but this is a public domain site. So this is the result of the Azure Cognitive Search capabilities applied over the JFK files. So for example, if I want to go and search for Oswald, who was the person who was convicted of the assassination, you'd see that there are quite a few searches search results that come up, and that includes handwritten documents, typed documents, images, whatnot. and you will see that these actually highlighting is also a great feature from the Azure Cognitive Search capability, and you'll see this result in action. And just one of the great features of this particular application, to just show you, they have been able to link entities. So it shows you what is the relationship between Oswald and Harvey and Embassy and Dallas and Commission and whatnot. If you want to put on your Sherlock Holmes hat and take a look at this, feel free to. So you can imagine the use cases for your specific problem statement and think about how you can use these, especially the cognitive services around building enrichments to your search capabilities. Cool. So this was the architecture of the cognitive services architecture for the JFK files. They've used a lot of these tools or these capabilities of Azure Cognitive Search, not just the ones that we talked about. So they put it in blob. They have a lot of unstructured data that's coming, documents, and which included a lot of images as well. They enabled OCR capabilities. They had to look through handwriting, computer vision capabilities, all of these, and then at the end, a structured data that sat in their index. Off the bat, it might look a little overwhelming, but we just saw as part of our demo onto how easy it is for developers to go and just check a few checkboxes and make sure that this is available, right? So if we had to build this from scratch, it would probably take us a lot of energy and effort, time as well. So at the overall view, so this is what the cognitive search capabilities provide us. Your source data goes through document cracking. You may apply cognitive skills and you get enriched documents. You may store it in a knowledge store for further projections, which means that from there, if you would like to pass that on to your Power BI reports or for further analysis, you may do that, or you may directly choose to query and to explore through your search index. So you get not just a search engine with full text search capabilities, you get rich indexing and AI enrichments, rich querying capabilities with all that syntax capabilities that we looked at. Programmability, though we've not covered in this section, is a huge advantage, because if developers want to use these REST APIs, you have support for .NET, Python, Java, and JavaScript today. And most interestingly, now this is only in preview stage, but one of the major announcements this year in Build 2021 is the semantic search capabilities. We may not have a demo to show you around that, but I can quickly show you what we have heard from the Microsoft engineers. Now, imagine we go to a website and we search, what's the capital of France, right? And in most probability, what we would get are the results that you see on the left. You might get search results which come back with capital punishment in France, capital gains tax in France, what is the capital of Kazakhstan, and whatnot. And this is basically because search engines have historically worked on keyword searches. And keyword searches would just search for a keyword, like where is capital in that phrase, where is France in that phrase. What we are talking about now is semantic search, and that is a huge benefit in this regard, because it adds semantics. It looks into the contextual meaning of your search, and which means that once these algorithms, these powerful semantic search algorithms, are able to are applied on your search results, you get more relevant search results. So if you look at the results of the semantic search on your right hand side and compare that with the keyword search results on your left, you'd see the difference in your semantic search capabilities. And over and above that, Microsoft has also made available small gists or briefs of your semantic search results, so you don't have to dig right into the search results to be able to see this in full. So we are so excited to see the full round of semantic search capabilities go GA in a while, but this is what we know thus far. So at a very high level, I think that if I know there's been a lot of information that we've exchanged in this last half an hour, but to summarize, if there is one key takeaway that we may have from a search service as Azure Cognitive Search is that this is probably the best search service, the only one that's built in AI enrichment capability. So if you are looking for a really rich and powerful search experience, you might want to give this a try. And if I have to leave you with one single reference, please take a look at ak.ms cognitive search, and that is probably the window that will open you up to all those other avenues and materials, documentation that you need to study around cognitive search. So thank you for your time once again, and we come to the end of the session. But I'm happy to take questions if any.
Yeah, thanks, Liji. I think thanks for the demo. Like it was very interactive, so thanks for that. So we got one question from Sundaram. Like, is it possible to have multiple data sources like PDF databases and etc. for single Azure search service?
Yes, yes, it is possible for you to bring in multiple data sources into one single Azure search service. Yes.
Okay, so one more question is so hope with this search service we can search media files as videos and audios as well.
Yes, yes. So unstructured data accounts for both image. We covered only images today, but video, audio, and all is possible. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I think those were all the questions, Liji. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So then, thank you, folks, and stay connected. And I'm happy to talk to you as well. Thank you, Suhas and Sundaram, for this organization as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Liji. Like, guys, if you have any doubts, you can reach out to her Twitter handle. Like, this is her Twitter handle, Liji Thomas 2020. You can reach out to her. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so uh, next we have Vignesh Mani. Like, he'll be talking about Azure SQL Server and overview. So, over to you, Vignesh.
Yeah. Bro. Good evening.
Yeah, good morning, Vignesh.
Sir, good morning, bro. Are you? I hope are you able to visual my screen, bro?
Yes, Vignesh. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. 1 minute, friends.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, friends. Good morning to all. And first of all, thank you so much for Sundaram and Suhas Bro for giving this opportunities. So, friends, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is safe and good, and your family members are everyone safe and good. So, today we are going to see about overview of Azure SQL Server and overview. So I hope actually nowadays everyone know about that cloud technologies. So day by day, all the companies are using the cloud. So even though startup companies also moving to the cloud technologies. So normally today I am going to explain about one of the cloud services, Azure SQL. Azure SQL Server and its overview. So first of all, my name is Vignesh Mani. I am a senior software engineer and a Microsoft certified trainer and a technical author and a speaker. So this is my about me. And actually today we are going to cover in the agenda introduction of Azure SQL and the deployment model. What are the deployment models are available in the Azure and the scalable performance and pools and purchasing model and service tiers. So we are going to cover the elastic pool and the maximum resource utilization and how to monitor and how to get the alert if have happening something background of Azure SQL and what are the availability and capabilities are there and what are the tools are going to use for Azure SQL. Okay, this is the small agenda in our Azure SQL. So I hope so those who are know about the Azure Azure or already used in the Azure know about the Azure SQL. Suppose if you are new in the Azure, if you are SQL, definitely this is really help to you for the Azure SQL. So normally today the conference data platform, we are going to covering all the data platform related topics. So that we have choose Azure SQL, and I'm going to give the small demo also, how we are going to create Azure SQL and what are the deployment models are there and what are the types are there. I'm going to explain everything. So if you have any query, please post in the comment box. At the end, I will explain or I will answer to your questions, friends. Okay. So today, so what is the Azure SQL? Okay. Normally, if you're working in the .NET background or .NET Core, definitely you are using the Azure SQL. So here it's the same like, but it's small different in the Azure SQL. The SQL, actually Azure SQL it's a database. It's a fully managed system. Okay, it's a PaaS services from the Microsoft. Okay, so it's a platform as a services. Okay, so suppose for example, normally what we are doing, suppose normally if you want to work on development mode, you are installing the SQL server in your system or in SQL Studio or SQL Server you will install in your system, and you will start to work on it. Okay, but instead of them, if you're using the Azure PaaS services, you can create a Azure SQL from the Azure portal, and you can use it. Okay, but it's full and full. It's a fully managed platform. So Azure SQL Database is a fully managed platform as a services. Also, okay, so normally, so we have the whenever we are normally, if you are managing our SQL server in own server, we need to take care everything, the update, batching, everything we need to back up, everything we need to take care of ourselves. Okay, so suppose whenever we are moving to Azure SQL, suppose the management activities like upgrading, batching, backup, and monitoring, everything no need to do ourselves. So everything it will do from itself in the Azure. Okay, so without user involvement, it will automatically upgrading, batching, backup, everything they will do in the Azure itself. Okay, we no need to take care everything from our side. So this is one of the main advantages. So suppose if you're going to start your own small business, so instead of buying everything for your own, just you can go to the Azure portal and you can create and you can pay how much you are using. Okay, how much you are using. So suppose if you are a startup, you spend much money, or you are creating own database server, you need to take care, you need to batching, upgrading, backup, and power supply, internet supply, everything you need to take care. So suppose if anything happen background, suppose if your internet connectivity, anything happening in background, so it will affect the business. So instead of that, so normally if you're going to Azure SQL, so we can just create and we can use it. Apart from other activities, the Azure itself they will take care. Okay, so whenever you are using Azure SQL, they are using the latest database engine. So suppose day by day they are upgrading the engine version. So whenever you are using the database, Azure SQL, it's automatically you can using the latest version. For example, if you are using in the locally, suppose if you have one server, you are installing one version of SQL server. So if you want to use the latest version, you need to uninstall the existing one and you need to install the new one. But if you are using Azure SQL, no need to do this much activities. You can, whenever they are releasing new engine, or directly to automatically support into the Azure SQL. So no need to do any other extra activities. No need to from your side. Okay, so normally whenever you are doing the batching or any other activities, so or any OS batching or any other activities, it won't disturb our SQL engine. Okay, its availability is 99.99%. So no need to worry about it. It's only for 1.0% 0% is a downtime. So it's 99.9% is availability. So this is one of the main feature in the Azure SQL. Okay, so So this is the small introduction of Azure SQL. So whenever you are choosing the Azure SQL, we have the different deployment model is there. Okay, so one is the single database and the elastic pool. Okay, what is the single database actually? So normally, suppose if you are developing one project, this is the one main business. Okay, main business. So you should your database and everything, you should have the more availability, more scalability, means you can using single database. It's a separate machine for you. Okay, so whenever you are creating single database, the single database, it's created a separate machine. It won't share to the any other one. So full machines are only using by yourself only. For example, I am creating one database, I am choosing the single database, so those machines won't use any other business user or any other companies. Okay, only they allocate for you only. Okay, that others they won't create any other database from the single database. So suppose if you are developing on website. Okay, so maybe anytime the website is very busy, means so we are using the single database based on our business activities. We are using the single database model. Okay, so suppose you are a startup, you are going to your business is only small level only. So normally they won't use much people, or sometimes only they're using much people. So it's a small level business, means, or a small level that project, means you can using the elastic pool. So what is the elastic pool here is they will, in the single machine, they allocating the space for the different database. Okay, suppose I am creating one database, so some other company creating some other database, they will allocating the database in the same machine. Okay, it's like, for example, it's like if in the you have an on-premise system. Okay, in the on-premise you have multiple database creating, but for the different project. Okay, same way here, the single machine or a single server, they creating the different database and they will allocate to us. Okay, so at the time we are using the elastic pool. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so single database, the cost wise it's high, and the elastic pool is cost wise it's low. Okay, based upon our business, we are using the deployment model. Okay, friend. So I will in the demo I will tell the exact price and everything. I will tell in the demo. Okay, so next, the scalable performance and the pool activities. Okay, so I told, no, the whenever we are using the single database, it's isolated one. Okay, so others who cannot use. So normally, so it's a compute wise or memory wise, storage wise, we are using only one. Okay, so its own disturb or its own affect from the any other user or any other database. Okay, suppose if I'm sharing the same different pool database, it's accessing lot of people. Okay, from the different databases, from different business. It's at the time, it might be we have a chance to crash. Okay, so whenever you're using the single machine for your business only, it won't only we are accessing our business users, and other business users won't access it. Okay, so that the single database, the each database is isolated from the other portable. Okay, so it's a very high performance. Okay, normally each has its own coordinate amount of compute, memory, and storage resource. Okay, so normally it won't use the others. Okay, the amount of resource assigned to the database is dedicated to the database, and it's not shared without any other database. Already I told, no, this database won't to share any other things. Okay, so that it's a availability, scalability, performance, which everything it's a high. So that it's based upon our business, we need to choose it. Okay, so it's normally already I told, if you are going to use the small level, we are using the elastic. Okay, so in the elastic pool, defaultly you can assign the resource and share by all the database. And normally, see here, whenever you are using the last point, you can create a new database or move the existing single database into a resource pool to maximize the use of resource and save money. Okay, normally, so for example, whenever you are creating suppose you planned the one business, you thought that a lot of business users going to access your website or your business. So after some time, so, okay, suddenly the business users dramatically reduced. Okay, so what we will do, so we plan to move the single database to elastic pool, because my business is dramatically reduced. Okay, for example, in the pandemic time, a lot of people have started the business before the pandemic. After started the pandemic, the dramatically business is reduced. Okay, so what we need to, suppose we business is dramatically reduced, we no need to pay, we no need to spend much money for the database or application activity. So that what we do, we can easily change or switch over the single database to elastic pool. Okay, they have given the options, so that whenever we you need, you can move from single database to the elastic pool. So that is the one of the main advantages in the Azure SQL. Okay friends. So normally already I told so that they told the very scalable performance in the Azure SQL. Okay, so already I told we have the purchasing model. Okay, so these three types I will explain the demo. Actually we have the three type of purchasing model: vCore based purchasing model. Okay, uh, DTU, data transfer unit based purchasing model, serverless model. Okay, so vCore based purchasing model is it's normally called, it's how much you are accessing. Okay, so it's a vCore based purchasing model is how much you are accessing, how much you are using input output, or how much data you're accessing, and how much requests coming, how much requests going. Based on that, they are building the vCore based purchasing model. Okay, so next one is DTU, means the abbreviation is data transfer unit. So based on DTU based purchase model, it's fixed one. Okay, suppose for example you are going to get the rental for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Based on that, they will yearly wise, they will build the amount. Okay, and they not for you based on the users. It's a fixed amount rate. Okay, so I will detail explain while creating the while showing the demo. And serverless model is it's only for if you are using, they will they will do the bill, otherwise they won't do. Okay, whether whenever you need, you can access it and you can use it. Serverless model is a small level business that people are using the serverless model. It's compared to above vCore or DTU. The serverless is more useful for the startups. Okay, because suppose you are creating one database. Okay, the daily or only the minimum number of users are using 10 users, 15 users, 20 users. Okay, so if you are whether using, they then only they will they will bill for the amount. Okay, if you're not using, they won't bill. Suppose if you are creating but you don't use long time, they won't pay anything. Okay, but vCore or DTU you need to pay the some rental amount. Based on top of on that, we need to pay the how much users are accessing it. Based on that, we are using the purchasing model. Okay, the vCore, DTU, serverless model. This is the three models are in the purchasing model. Okay, so we have the service tier also. Okay, normally we have the three service tiers as the general purpose or standard, business critical or premium, or hyperscale. Okay, so what is the general purpose standard is the minimum cost. So suppose we are going to using uh, testing development model, we are using the general purpose standard. Okay, our small project are we using the general purpose standard. The cost is minimum budget. Okay, so whenever you are using the high level or the critical application we are going to create, we are using the business critical and the premium. Okay, so the compared to both, we have the more facilities there. And okay, actually whenever I creating the demo, I will show the different, what is the different we are using. Okay, the Skype scale is a combination of general purpose and business critical. Okay, this is the three service tier is there. And as well as next, actually whenever we are using the elastic pool to maximum resource utilization. Okay, so already we have see here general purpose, business or hyperscale. This is the three service tier. Okay, based on the service tier and based on the elastic pool to maximize the resource. Okay, so normally, so see here the elastic pool to maximize the resource utilization means, see here, so suppose you have choose some combination of hardware for your database. Okay, so suddenly your user is dramatically increased, means based on the access, based on the request, automatically suppose whenever your CPU utilizing the 100%, automatically your hardware capacity will increase. It automatically increased. Okay, so if whenever you are using the maximum resource utilization, how automatically increase the your hardware capacity. So we have some restriction based on the plan. If you're using basic, standard, and premium plan, it will based on the particular level of V core only. V core means virtual core. V core only you can increase it. Okay, suppose for example, if you're using the basic level, you can auto scaling option. Auto scaling is nothing but it automatically increase the hardware capacity. Okay, so that they have told elastic pool to maximize resource utilization based on the resource plan. Based on the service tiers. Okay, the basic, standard, premium. Okay, so see here the auto scale up max. If you're using the basic plan, so elastic database pool, you can share minimum 100 to 1200 ETTUS. Okay, so this is you can see the in the screen. You can maximum auto scale up to 5 ETTS. Okay, data transfer unit. Okay, so that is 5 ETTS per database. Okay, if you're using the standard, you can auto scale up to 100 ETTS per database. Okay, suppose if you are using the premium is maximum the very critical application, they are using the premium plan. Okay, so whenever you are using the premium plan, the auto scale up to 1000 ETTS per database. Okay, so this is the based on the, suppose if you basic plan greater than 5 TTS you cannot possible. So you need to change the plan standard. If using the standard, only maximum 100. Only you can auto scaling up to the 100. Suppose if you using the premium, auto scale up to 1000. Okay, so 1000 is very high capacity per database. Okay, so this is for not for the all the database, for single database only. Okay, so based on the single database, they are using the maximum capacity level. Okay, so this is the elastic pool for the based on the maximum resource utilization. Okay, friends. So next one is actually suppose normally whether what are the things you are using in the Azure services, we have the monitoring activities. Okay, so normally if you suppose if anything executed wrongly in the script in the normal, we need to check the log in the database. Okay, we have the log, that log could not access all the persons. So we have the DBA, specific DBA only can check everything. Okay, but if you whenever you are using the Azure SQL, we have the lot of tools are there. Okay, so extensive monitoring and alert capabilities. Okay, so when we have using the lot of SQL. Okay, so the telemetry is very important. It's collecting all the data about all the database. Whenever you're using Azure SQL, the telemetry nothing but it's collecting the all the data. Okay, what are the things background, what are the queries executing, what are the vulnerabilities are happening there. Everything it will collecting. Telemetry means nothing but it's data what is happening there. Okay, everything collect and with the help of the Azure diagnostic very most powerful in the Azure SQL. Okay, with the use of the Azure diagnostic, you can analyze your Azure SQL and you can store all the information in the database. You can go there and you can find the what are the alerts is coming, what are the data is executing, what are the things happening. Everything you can monitor this. Okay, suppose if anything vulnerability is happening or anything unwanted activities happening or anything try to hacking everything it will alert, and normally it will get the mail or it will send the message to your mobile. Everything we can do it. Okay, for example, see here the Azure SQL analytics, you can analyze your data. Okay, data means not stored data, what are the things happening your database, those who are accessing, what are the requests coming, what are the requests going, how much time is taking to request and response. Everything it's there, you can access. Okay, and so storage is all the telemetry data. So telemetry data, the help of the Azure diagnostic, you can check in the storage all the telemetry data you can access from the Azure storage. Okay, so the next one is the event hub. Okay, so for example, you want to generate some report based on the how much usage is using for the particular project, how much memories are utilized, how much data are you utilize, how much input output per second we have used, like everything you can, if you want to get the report to and show to the third party application using the event hub. Event hub is getting, it's mainly using for whenever you are showing the report about your Azure SQL database related activities, using the event hub you can show the all the data to the third party applications. This is the main useful for your applications. Okay, so this is the main monitoring and alert capability, the capabilities for Azure SQL. Okay, friends. I think next one is the security and complaints. Okay, we have the lot of advanced security and complaints are there. Okay, so whenever, so that the Azure we have the default securities and the complaint features are there, and I will show the demo how we will check it. Okay, so if you are using if you are using more database, okay, so what are, for each database you can check the vulnerability assessment, threat detection, data encryption, so all the features are there. Okay, so if you anything unwanted users try to access, or any threat detection, or okay, so all the features are there. Okay, security and compliance, everything, it will, suppose if anything happening security and compliance level, it automatically detect and it will send to the email to us, or it will notify in the Azure portal. Okay, so all the features are there in the security level also. We don't need to do much things in the security level. Suppose if you're installing SQL in your own on-premise, you need to take and care everything, the security level, compliance level, everything you need to take and care. But if you go into Azure SQL, they are taken care everything themselves. Okay, do no need to worry about it. You only consider the your business. Okay, so this is the one of the main advantages in the Azure SQL. Okay, friends. So next one, this is the vulnerability assessment, threat detection, data encryption. Okay, so the final one, so normally the final one, what are the tools we can using? Okay, normally suppose if I going to use the Azure SQL, we need tools. Okay, mainly we are using the Azure portal. Okay, so the Azure portal may normally for using the Azure SQL. Okay, so normally the next one is Azure Azure Data Studio. It's mainly for the cross-platform database tool that run the Windows, Mac, Linux. Okay, suppose in the cross-platform you want to connect it, you can using Azure Data Studio. It's a cross-platform. Okay, then you can using Azure SQL Server Management Studio. You can ask, sir, we are going to create Azure PaaS, but how can we connect in the SQL Server Management Studio? It's possible. I will show to you the demo. Okay, so Azure Server Management Studio, and you are using SQL Server tool, SQL Server Data tool in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. So these are the we have there, and we have a lot of apart from these tools, we have a lot of tools are there. We will I will how we will migrate the from on-prem to our Azure SQL data. We have separate tool is there. Okay, everything is possible. We can easily migrate from your on-prem to and to your Azure SQL. It's possible. We have separate section. Suppose in the next, if you have any chance, we will take next section how to migrate from on-prem to Azure SQL. It's a very interesting topic and a very easy one, and I will take the session in the next session. Okay, so this is the tool for Azure SQL. Okay, so mainly we are using portal now, and we are using Azure Data Studio, Azure SQL Server Management Studio, Azure SQL Data Tool in Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code. This is the there. Okay, friends. So this is the overall Azure SQL. So now we are going to see the small demo in the Azure SQL. Okay, friends. Now we are moving to the Azure portal. Okay, so what I am going to do now, we are going to the Azure portal. Okay, this is the Azure portal. I have logged in the Azure portal. Okay, see here, if you go into the home, you can, in the home page you can see all the activities. Okay, so in the not only the Azure SQL database, we have the different databases out there in the Azure. Okay, so NoSQL, MySQL. Okay, so we have different databases there. MongoDB. There are all the supports us there. Okay, now I am going to explain about the Azure SQL. Okay, so normally, so if you going to type SQL here, SQL database. Okay, if you are going to say type SQL, otherwise if you go into here in the Here you got all the services there. If you go into all the services, you can, if you go into the database, in the database you can find the all the database. So it's Azure Cosmos DB, support MySQL Server, support all the see SQL Elastic Pool. We have managed database. We have lot of things is there here. Okay, so normally now what we are doing now, actually already in the, if you go into the dashboard, you already hope which one is you have recently used all the services here there. Suppose you here type the SQL databases. Okay, so if you click the SQL databases or SQL server, okay, so normally I am clicking with the SQL databases. If you click the SQL database, okay, so already I have created one, so you can create the new one. Okay, so what I am, you can create the new one. Okay, so what I am going to create, so create, I'm clicking the create. Okay, so what you can create the new databases. Okay, see here, in whenever you clicking the new one, we have this much things is there. So normally first select the Visual Studio Enterprise and select the resource group. If suppose if you are using the different project, you can create one resource group for the each project and you can use it. Okay, so now I am using the network watch RG. It's a resource already I have created. If you want, you can create it. Okay, create it and see here the database details. Okay, so whenever you're using SQL, we need to create a database. Okay, so enter the required settings for the database, including picking the local server and configure the computer and storage resources. Okay, so see here is the very important one. Here is the very important one. So what we need to do here, come down. So what you are doing, suppose here is the database. Okay, so what I am going to here, so already I have created one database, but I am going to create new database. Okay, so database engine, this is the server. Okay, we need to create a database. Okay, so suppose already I have created the server, so that already it's showing here. Suppose whenever using the first time, you need to create a own server. Okay, now I'm creating the databases demo sample. This is the demo sample. Okay, this is the database name only. Okay, but what we need to create a server. Okay, the server we need to create it. Okay, without server we could not create a database in the server. Okay, so I'm clicking the create new option here. Okay, here is the server name. Okay, so select the server name. Okay, here is what is the my, I'm clicking my server. Here give everything small, it's taking its own take small. It's my server. Okay, server name I note it down in the notepad. Okay, so my server database name is my server. Okay, already they exist. My server demo, I am giving the my server name is my server demo. My server demo. Okay, so I actually the server first, if you are using the newly, you need to create the server here, my server demo here. So once they created, you can login. Okay, login is I'm giving, suppose here you could not give admin, administrator, anything. It's if giving the admin, it won't accept it here. Okay, see here, admin, administrator, everything won't accept it. You give the my login, I'm giving the my login. Okay, so see here the server so I note it down because this is note it down in one place. It's very important one. Okay, so and I giving the password. I'm giving the password also. I will note it down. So okay, so this is the very important one. Okay, suppose if you are using suppose where your project is going to deploy, whether if you're using the India or any region, based on that region you can choose it here. Okay, so normally what we are doing here, Actually, here we are using the we in the India we have this service is available in the central India. Okay, so sorry, say West India, South India. So we have that. Okay, so we can choose the South India. Okay, so if you choose the see here, subscribe does not have access to create service select region. Okay, so based on the subscription, we could not create some region. So I'm creating East US. Okay, just selecting East US. Just click OK. Click OK. So once it's created, it will it's okay. So server is created. See here, what are the server is created? Already I have created two servers. Okay, so one is existing one, another one is created currently. Okay, select it. So do you want elastic pool? As of now, if you want to the elastic pool, you can yes it and select the your elastic pool. But as of now, this elastic pool automatically increasing your SQL elastic pool. But as of now, I did not give that no. Okay, so see here, next one is the general. Okay, see here, is the general purpose. Okay, the computing and storage is very very important. We going to the configuration database. Here already I told no the general purpose, hyperscale, business critical. Already three types is I have explained here all the pricing model. Okay, see here this if you choosing the general purpose, see here 500 to 2000 20,000 input output per second. Okay, suppose if you're going the business, see here it's a high transaction rate, high resiliency. So this input output rate 2 to 10 millisecond latency. Okay, so see here is the 5000 to okay, so this is the maximum input output, but latency is 1 to 2 second millisecond only. So latency which is very latency means so how much data is, how much time to take to going to request to the server and the responsive. So this is the latency. So if you're using hyperscale, the 10 to 10 millisecond latency, it's a combination. Okay, but here is for combination of business critical and general purpose hyperscale. Okay, on demand scale storage. Okay, but here is the 500 to 20,000 input output second. Okay, so this is the business critical. Okay, so see here, you can choose anyone. Okay, so if you hyperscale is there, general purpose is there. Okay, so if you clicking the general purpose, we have the to compute tier is provisioned or serverless. Okay, so already told serverless is compute resource or auto scale build per second based on the V core used. How much you can use based on that they will build it. Okay, but provisioned is that compute resource are pre-allocated build per hour based. Okay, in the on the V core configuration. Here is the provisioned. If you choosing the provisioned, they will build per hour based on the V core configured. Okay, but see here is the build per second based on the V core used. Okay, here also the based on the hour they will build it. Here they will based on the per second they will build in the serverless. Okay, so suppose we going to the business critical. Okay, suppose if you are going to use the business critical, so see here you can check the up to maximum up to 800 vcr to up to 408 gp memory. This is generation 5. This is the computer hardware. This okay, you can choose it maximum how much you can choose it. Okay, see here you can choose it vcore maximum size and how many vcore you need it, you can choose it. Okay, if you go into hyperscale, this is combination, you can also you can choose it. Okay, so minimum maximum, so based upon the business. Okay, the general purpose is the minimum level project we are using the general purpose only. Okay, so normally they are choosing the vcore. You can if you want it, you can increase it the vcore, you can choose it and increase it. Okay, so you can okay, so see here you can increase, you can you move here, you can ask easily, you can check the vcore maximum. Okay, so this is the main difference for the general purpose hyperscale business criteria. Okay, so just okay, and would you like to make this database zone redundancy? Redundancy means it's the same database stored in the different region. Okay, so basically if you choose yes, they will build for storage also. And because if you want to redundancy, it will take the memory or storage, so they will build for the storage also. So as of now I did not give no, and just click apply. Okay, just general purpose I have selected V core and 32-bit storage. Okay, so now I am going to select. Okay, see here. So here the backup storage. They are asking the backup storage. Okay, they are asking the backup. They're asking the backup storage. The backup, if you want to, you can local redundancy or zone redundancy or geo redundancy. We can choose it. Okay. So if you want to geo redundancy, or I'm choosing the geo redundancy. Okay. So just choose it, and we can click next. Okay, the next is we are going to network. Okay, see here, this is very very important. If you want to no access means you cannot access outside from the Azure portal. Okay, suppose if you want to access the public endpoint, you can access from anywhere. Okay, allow SQL server resource to the access server S. If you want to access, actually suppose you accessing only, you can add the particular IP only. Suppose see here current client IP address. Okay, by giving the current IP, I can only directly connect from my machine to Azure portal in the public access. In no means no one can access from the outside. Only the Azure portal only you can access it. Okay, if it's private endpoint means you can need to give who those who are we can access it. Okay, but I'm giving the public endpoint. And okay, so access the server, I'm giving yes access, allow Azure service and resource to the access this server. Okay, yes, I'm giving. Add the current IP address, current it automatically take my current IP address. Okay, now see here, here is the security Azure defender of SQL. I already told no, default productions are securities available in the Azure SQL. Okay, so production your database using the Azure Defender for SQL and a unified security package including the vulnerability assessment and advanced threat protection for your everything is there. This is free one. If you choose not now, it will build for this security also for Azure Defender for SQL. Okay, so now I am choosing the free one. Okay, so this is the main important, the vulnerability, security, compliance, everything they are taken care. So they will build for those also. I am choosing now trial one. Okay, so I click next. Okay, so so this is additional settings. Okay, just click next if you want to add tag. Okay, otherwise review it and create it. If you click create it, it will take some times. Okay, okay, it's currently it's deploying. The deployment is progress. Once the deployment is done, yeah, now its deployment is going on. So maybe it will take a small time. It's a deployment is in progress. If once done, you can see the here. You can find the completions. Okay, so normally it's a progress. Just 2 minutes, friends. It will take nearly 2 minutes. I'm opening already as you again new. Already I have created another database. Same thing, but it will take time. Just 1 minute. It will take some time. I will show to already see here, and this is the sample already a demo purpose I have created. If you go into inside, you can find all the things. Okay, this is the server name. Okay, Elastic I did not enable. You can check how many everything you can find it up. How many CPU usage per maximum, data IO, everything you can find it here. So used space 20 MB, allocated space 30 MB, 32 MB. So everything you can find it here. So you can find all the active logs, everything's there. If you go into diagnostic and solve problems, if you have any problems or common problems, you can go into diagnostic and solve here. What are things problem? For example, backup, restore, deep import, export. So based on the related your issues, you can find it here and check it. They will automatically give to the idea for resolving the your things. Okay, so now once deployment is done, okay, see here you can using the Power BI preview, Power BI related supports are there, and Power Apps, Power Auto. This is all the preview. The Power Platform also default is supporting here. Okay, so this is the all the things. Okay, connections things. Suppose we are going to connect ADO.NET, how we are connecting JDPC, how you connecting ODBC, how you connecting PHP, how you are going to connecting Go, how to connect everything. They're giving the sample code for connecting the databases. Okay, so all the properties there. Okay, all the properties, everything here. So here the replica means you can replicate related things, sync to one database. Replicate means we have one database, same database copy. We need to replicate to a local on-prem or anything that we are using the replicate. Already we have taken these things in the same task free. So you can check that video also. So how to replicate it working. So everything, all the things, everything you can find here. Transaction, performance, intelligence. So main thing is the monitoring. If you go into alert, you can find all the alert related activities. Alert, the metrics, how much they have spent, all the things, CPU limit usage, everything you can find it. All the things they have given to here. Okay, friends. All the things they have given to here. Okay, all the things I given to here. So now the deployment is everything done. Okay, so go to resource now. If you go into here, this is, if you go into query editor, you can find the query editor. My database, my password database, the password is, this is my password. So each and every time it is asking the password. So if you click here and log in, you can find the tables, all the things you can find it here. Okay, so logging, see here all the tables you can find it. Okay, you can find all the tables, views, anything. Okay, so see here, actually these things you can connect from the local SQL server also. So here this is my local SQL. Okay, so I disconnect it because I have enabled public access. Okay, connecting the database. How you can connect here? Going to the portal in the overview. If you go into the overview, just click. So this is the server name. Just copy the server name. We copy here. We're going to paste here. This is server name. Okay. Your server authentication is, what is the my username and password? This is my username. My login. Okay. This is my login. My password is user. I'm giving my password. Okay, so I have enabled the public access. Okay, so once the public access is, it's public access, so that I can access it. Okay, so I will show to you here again. So here you can create one sample database. 1 minute, it's loading. Yeah, see here the database. This database, here is the database. So same thing. If you go into here, you can find the in the query editor. You can find it. Okay, so if you go in here, you can find the table, everything you can find it. Same thing you can create a database, the demo sample. This is my demo sample database. This is, see here, this is the database. We go into here. I'm going to no new query. See this demo sample. Same here, only one database I have created. So that here is the database is demo sample. See here, demo sample. If you're creating anything automatically, suppose I'm creating table, create table, table name sample, or test. Okay, so I'm creating ID int. Just 50. I'm creating table. So everything if you're creating from local, it automatically connects it. Okay, just refresh it. See a test table. Okay, if you go into here, you can do all the things. What are things you can do? All the things, everything. See here, test table is coming here. So what are things you can doing, it will come to that. Okay, so we can connect it. Okay, suppose if you go into the here overview, okay, if you go into the overview, if you go into the set service firewall, okay, see here in the firewall, here my IP address automatically added it. Okay, suppose if any other friends need to add it, just give the name and starting IP, ending IP. Suppose if I try to remove this IP deleted here, I could not access could not access from here. Only what are the IPs I have added here, only those only they can connect it. What I am doing, again I disconnected it. Now I have removed my IP from there. Okay, now if you're going to try to connect it, okay, my server to my login, okay, user at 123. So if you want to connect it, even though if you're giving the public access, okay, you want to add the your IP there. Okay, so if you remove from there, it won't connect it. Okay, and, Azure resource access the server. If you give no could not access, no one could not access it. Okay, so what is the, I have removed it. Just now saved it. Once save is saved, performance completed. Now saved it. Okay, now you're going to again log in it. Again, I forgot to save, disconnect it from here. We're going to connect from your SQL here, user at 123. If you connect it, it won't connect it because I removed from my, see here, we don't have access. We need to add this IP from here. For example, you can type my system. Okay, and then type your IP. The type is 42, 42.165.20. Same, copy it and add it here. Okay, add it and save it again. If you save it, it automatically connected. The security is more flexible, so you can easily connect it again. Just now connect it. It will now I added my IP, so you can use connect it. Okay, friend. So that's all, friends. This is overall Azure SQL. I hope this is very useful for to you. So if you have any queries, please let me know, friends. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Vignesh. Like
Thank you,
that was
bro.
very, yeah, that was a good overview of Azure SQL Server. So guys, if you have any questions, so this is Twitter handle MCAVKMAS. You can reach out to him, and this is email. You can reach out to him if you have any doubts regarding SQL Server, or else if you can also, you can raise it in the comments. Like he'll be joining the chat to answer it. Yeah, thanks, Vignesh. Thanks for your
Thank you,
time.
bro. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. So next up, we have Gautham. Like he'll be talking about Azure table storage. So over to you, Gautham.
Yeah, good morning, all. Thank you, Suhas.
Yeah.
Everyone can hear me, right?
Yeah. Yes, Gautham.
Yeah, okay. So, once again, good morning to all. I hope you all doing good. And today, I'm going to share you something about Azure Table Storage. One second. Let me try to share my screen.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So, I hope you all can see my screen, right?
Yes, Gautham. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, let's explore Azure Table Storage. So this is my agenda. First, we are going to see what is Azure Storage, and next is the core storage services, and then one of the concept in Azure Storage, what is Azure Tables, and then when to use the Azure Tables and the pros and cons of Azure Tables. Then finally, we'll end up with a demo. So, what is Azure Storage? So the Azure Storage Platform is Microsoft cloud storage solution for modern data storage scenarios. Core storage services offer a massively scalable object store for data objects, disk storage for Azure virtual machines, a file system service for a cloud, and a messaging store for reliable messaging, and a NoSQL store. The services are like these services are highly durable and available, which means the redundancy ensures that your data is safe in the event of transient hardware failures. For example, if data center once if we enable the geo redundancy in the services, it's always available. I mean, even though if there is any natural disaster happen in the data center, it's actually that services is actually replicable in other data centers while you're enabling the geo redundancy in the service. So the Azure service, it's always make sure these kind of services are highly available. And then the secure and scalable. All data returned to the Azure storage account is encrypted by the service, and the Azure storage is designed to be massively scalable to meet the data storage and performance needs. And managed and accessible, which means like the hardware maintenance and other critical issues are completely managed by Azure. And the data in Azure storage is accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. And as well as for developers, while developing the application using the Azure storage, the libraries are available in multiple languages, like you can use C Sharp, Java, JavaScript, Node.js to develop the application using the Azure storage. Storage services. So these are the core storage services of Azure storage. And the first one is the Azure Blob. It's a scale text and to store the text and binary data in the cloud. It's then is the Azure Files. Actually, this service is used to manage the file shares for cloud or on-premise deployments. Then the Azure Queues is a messaging store relaying between application components. And finally, the Azure Tables. Actually, Azure Tables is a NoSQL store for schemaless storage of structured data. So these are the concepts and as well as the core storage services of the Azure storages. And yeah, and today we are going to explore the Azure Tables. So what is Azure Table? So Azure Table is allow you to store structured NoSQL data in the cloud, providing a key and attribute store with a schemaless designer. So yeah, basically it's a NoSQL data table. An entity contains a set of properties, and each property defines a name and value pair. So basically, if you see, actually, this is a storage account, and the storage accounts will have queues, blob, and as well as the tables. So, and the table, this Azure table is basically a NoSQL table. So the entities it contains a set of properties. Yeah, and each properties defines a name and value pair. Like email ID is an email ID name, and the value will be the value pair as like a dictionary. So it is a lightweight, easy to manage service, making it ideal for users just getting started with NoSQL or cloud data services. You can store any number of entities in the tables. Uh, One storage account may contain a number of tables up to a capacity limit of the storage account. So it's based upon the plan. You can have the number of tables for each storage account. So next question is like of when to use, and yeah, when we should go with this Azure tables. So you want to, if you want to store a flexible data sets like user data for web application, address book, device information, or other types of metadata, whatever your service requires. So this is some of the use case. yeah, use case to, like when we are going to use the Azure table storage. So with Azure table storage, you don't pay money, but instead you pay so it's currently the only database choice in it follows the serverless pricing model of paying only for what you act. So the pricing it's completely different from the Azure database server, whichever I think the previous session uh, uh, money he gave a yeah, overview of the Azure database server. So the pricing model is entirely different while comparing with that service. Here the pricing model is it's kind of a serverless pricing model. Like you are going to pay actually based on your usage. It's based on the number of transaction which is happened in the table storage. So this means the table storage can be a good choice as a poor man's NoSQL database. Actually, I have been using it on a number of projects in our company where I just need a couple of simple tasks and the querying equipment are not more complex. And another advantage is that the integration is very easy with Azure functions, making it a great choice if you want to quickly build out a serverless prototype. So basically, the table storage is also designed to be able to store huge volumes of data. And another use case, it's great for its storage log in fact, actually, if while creating the Azure Web App Services, it will automatically create the storage account. So basically, it will store all the diagnostic information uh, in those Azure tables, and as well as it will store all the logs. So those are the major use cases like when we are going with the Azure storage Azure table storage. So and each NoSQL database has its good and a bad side, right? So we'll see what is the pros and cons of the Azure table storage. The pros is, as I said, it's easily set up and it's cheap and minimal work required for the integration and applying it for our application. And it's very easy to understand, right? It's just a key and value pair. No more complex relationship is there in this model. And yeah, it's a simple model. Like we are going to have a entity partition key and a row key. So these two keys are very much important in the Azure tables. See, actually the row key is behave like a primary key, um, and the partition key, along with the row key, it will provide a indexing for the table. Okay. And so cons is low on scalability. uh, what to say, the scalable things like you can store a huge amount of data, but once you want to scale up, if you want to increase the compute power and all those stuff, so it's always in the low side. And lack of basic database operation like no like or contains like whatever the querying concept and things which are used for the relationship database, I mean like MS SQL and all those things. So some of the operators will not support here, and no backup procedure which is available here as like in Azure database server. And anytime you don't specify both a partition key and row key in a var class, except expect a slow tables to occur. So it's like how we are going to use the partition key and row key in the table. So based on those specification, those on the specification only, the performance will get improved. And it's kind of like how we are going to use these tools. And let's jump into the. So for the demo, I'm just, let me open my Azure portal, and this is the home screen of my Azure portal. And here, basically, if you want to have a table storage, the first step is to create a Azure storage resource. So click on create a resource.
Hi, Gautam.
Yeah. Yes, Sugas.
Yeah, like your voice is kind of breaking. It's kind of
Oh,
lagging actually.
is it okay now? Are you getting background noise?
No, it's kind of breaking, Gautam. Okay, so give us a minute, guys. Like we'll try to solve this.
Hello.
Hi, Gautam. Yeah, hi, Gautam.
Yeah, hi, Sugar. Sorry for the interruption. I just connected with another device. Um,
Yeah, now it's fine.
now it is fine, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, Gautam.
Okay. So, so now actually I'm going to create a resource, which means the Azure storage resource. Just click on 1 second. Let me refresh the screen and click on create a resource, and the search just type storage. Here you can type storage and you can find the template, or else you can it's already available here. So I'm just going to click on the storage account template, and here you can see like this my subscription, and this is a resource group. So I'm going to add this resource in this resource group. If you need to add a create a new resource, you can do it. Yeah. And here I can mention the storage account name, like conference demo, and the region, it can be East US, Central US, or whatever. There are a number of resources, and sorry, region, you can choose whatever the region which is near to you. And right now I'm just going with the East US by default, and the performance here we have only two level, like a standard and premium. Standard is recommended for most scenarios for general purpose version 2 account, where the premium is recommended for scenario that require low latency. And the redundancy, as I have specified, like there are like a local redundant storage, which is LRS, which is low cost option with a basic protection against the server rack and drive failures, recommended for non-critical scenarios. So once you select this local redundant storage, so if there is any failure, I mean, like if something happens to the account, storage account, I mean that your data is not protected. I mean there is no backup of data. And this is the GS, geo redundant storage. It's an intermediate option which with failover capabilities in a secondary region, which is recommended for a backup scenarios. And zone redundant storage, it's intermediate option with protection against the data center levels failures, recommended for high availability scenario. As I mentioned while explaining the Azure table storage, so this option, which means like it's highly available. And the zone redundant storage is a GZRS, which is next level of ZRS. Okay, optimum data protection solution that includes the offering of both GRS and ZRS recommended for critical data scenarios. So here I'm just going with GRS by default and click on review plus create. So it will validate my data. So once the validation is passed, just click on create. So it will take some time to create the resource. So the deployment is in progress, and you can also get a status from this notification pane. So it will take some minutes for the deployment. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, please post. Yeah, now the resource is ready. So deployment is completed, and click on go to resource. Yeah, so as I have mentioned, like these are the concepts in the storage account, like the containers and the file shares, queues and tables. Containers is nothing but the blobs. And here actually now we are going to create a new tables. Like this is a Azure table storage, and here click on the table, and here just give the table name. I'm creating the table name as employee, or else as per my flowchart, it can be a company. Or let it be. Let me go with employee, because it will make some sense while giving a demo. So now the table is created, and yeah. So there is a one more tool called Azure Storage Explorer, and I recommend you to install that tool. It's a free tool, and this is a Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer, where you can connect with your storage account and you can monitor all the transaction using this Azure Storage Explorer tool without logging into your Azure portal. So here I'm just clicking on this connection and storage accounts or services. This is the authentication. Okay, so you can use a connection string or shared access signature URL or account name and key. So let me use the connection string here. So here I need to provide the connection string to connect with my Azure table. So you can get a connection string from this access key under security plus network section. Just click on access key, and here you will have two keys. So probably one key will used for the production and one key is used for the development. Okay, here click on the showcase so that it will show you the connection string, and copy this, paste it over here. Yeah, and click on next. And this is your display name, data conference demo. You can edit your display name and this is account name, and then this is account key. Just click on connect. You can see like this storage account is connected now, and if you click on this table, and you can see the employee table here. Refresh. Now no data is available in the table. Fine. And you can also play with you can also connect the storage account, blob containers, and tables. Now right now we are using the tables, right? And you can also see if you added any queues or blobs. So right now I don't have any blobs or any queues here, so it is empty. I have only table here. Okay, so now I'm just going to my Visual Studio. So I'm going to explain now, right, how we are going to use the REST API to get, post or update and delete the records in the Azure tables. Okay, so let me stop this. So this is my ASP.NET Core Web API application, and this is my controller. By default we have this weather forecast controller, and this employee controller which I have created. Okay, and here we have 4 endpoints, one to get the records from the table, and one to for the post, I mean to insert the record, and put is to update the record, and delete is to delete the record from the table. So here basically you can see from the code, this is a connection string. The get section action is used to get connection string from this app settings. If you go to this app settings, you can see the connection string of my storage account. And right now actually I have used a different account. Now we have created a different one, right? So let me go to this portal, and I will copy this connection string. Let me try to replace it here. Okay, so now I have given the connection string of the storage account which is created right now. Okay, so then is the getting the value from the app settings, and the next one is like this Azure storage account. This is a library. Okay, so this library actually added using this namespace like Azure Cosmos.table. Okay, so this library actually you can download it from the NuGet package manager, and it's always available. This is a common library which used for Azure table as well as for the Cosmos DB. Okay, so that's what it's mentioned like Cosmos.table. Okay, and here after creating the object, we can use this method create cloud table client, and get reference of the table name. Okay, and execute query. Okay, this is for get, and if you want to insert the record, you can use this table operation. So for that, actually let me explain about this employee entity, which is my entity. As I have mentioned, the tables will have the entity, right? So entity actually it should be inherited from the table entity. Again, this table entity is from the library like Azure Cosmos.table. If you go to this table entity, you can see these are the properties of the table entity, and the mandatory mandatory properties are the row key and the partition key. So these are the, what to say, it's kind of, it's a not nullable field in the table. Okay, as I mentioned, the row key is, it's a primary key field, and the partition key is kind of a unique field, where by combining these two keys, it will form the composite key combinations. Like, so that's the main important, we need to provide the data for the partition key and the row key here. So right now I have given the first name for the row key and the last name for the partition key, and other properties are the first name, last name, email, and a phone number. And let me go to my controller, and here we have used the table query class. Actually, this table query class is used to query the entity, like whether we need to insert the record, insert the record to the table, or else this insert or merge, it's for update the records in the table. And delete function is used to delete the entity from the table, I mean the record from the table. So here the different one, like this property e tag, we have used to provide a more information um, for the record to delete. I mean, we need to, if we are passing the asterisk, actually this is a wildcard, so there won't be any validation with this e tag. So if we need to have a validation, we can use this e tag with certain values, so that if the same record is being updated from the two different users, so that time I think this is very handy, like if we are giving any unique data for this e tag. So this is my code for the CRUD operation, which we are going to do with our table. And let me know if you have any questions in this table. And here we have used this function table.create if not exist, which means like if there is no table available in the Azure table, it will create a new table with a reference of the name employee. If it's already exist, it will just keep. That's it. Okay. So now let me go to my Postman, so that I can explain you like how this CRUD will work. So first, let me try to add a record here, and so this is my endpoint. So before that, I will run this application. So if you go back to the Postman, this is my endpoint. Okay, and it's a post request, and I'm going to try to add this data. For first name is Arun, and last name is Raj, and the email is arun@gmail.com, and the phone number is 97391686676. Okay, just click on send. I've kept the breakpoint here. Let me run it. So you can see we got a response like the whatever the record we have added, we got it as a response, right? And here if you go to the Azure Storage Explorer, right now you can see no data is available in the table. And if you refresh, just go here and refresh again. If you refresh here you can see the new record is inserted to the table. The partition key is Raj, row key is row key is Arun, and the first name is Arun, last name is Raj, email is arun@gmail.com, and phone number is 973968676. So, and one more field is called the timestamp. This is the default field. By default, it will add the current date and time of the server, or else we can specify whatever the timestamp we needed. So these are the three default fields in each tables. in Azure Table Storage: partition key, row key, and timestamp. And then let me update this record. If I go to sorry, this I can make it as put, and instead of Arun, I can make it as arun@gmail.com. Click on send. You can notice like this email address has been updated here. And if you go back to the storage explorer, just refresh this window, and you can see that email has been updated. And if you want to delete this record, just go to delete and pass this entity. And as I have mentioned, like this is very handy while dealing with the delete operation here. Okay, so if you're not going to mention this e tag, it will throw the exception if there is no wildcard added with this e tag. If it is null, definitely the delete will not work. And see, the response is empty. And if you go to the explorer, just try to refresh this window. Now you can see that no data is available in the table. Yeah, just come back to the portal. So as I mentioned, like you can add a number of tables here. Given add customer, cannot organization. Sorry for the typo. So you can add a number of table, and you can play with all this table. And as I mentioned, it's completely NoSQL schemaless, and basically it is very useful while dealing with huge records with no relationship. And I think if there is no more complex queries involved, definitely this is the right choice. This service like Azure Table Storage is a right choice, because it's very cheap compared to the other database service like Azure Database Servers and Cosmos DB services. So let me go to my PPT. So the demo. So and basically after coming through all those things, something will strike, right? Like when should I use a MS SQL database service in Azure, and when to use this Azure storage table? So to answer that questions, like see, there are multiple dimensions to consider here, right? On negative side, Azure service is relatively expensive for yeah, gigabytes of storage. It does not scale super well, and it's limited to 150 gigas per database. So there is some limitation in Azure SQL's service. However, and this is very important, like there is no transaction fees against SQL Azure, right? But here the fees is based on the transaction. And yeah, as well as it's almost depend on the requirement. Like if our database involved more transaction, so yeah, that time actually this SQL service, Azure SQL service, it's a right choice compared to the Azure storage tables. So ATS, actually ATS is nothing but Azure table storage. It's kind of a different animal, where altogether capable of mega scalability, uh, and it is very cheap to store, but it get expensive if there is a frequent access with the tables. Okay, I mean if there is a more and more transaction, it will be very expensive. So basically, in my opinion, frequently access data that does not need huge scalability, and it is super larger in size, should be actually it should be destined for Azure MS SQL services. Otherwise, Azure Table Services is it's a right choice. So it's all depend on the requirement. And as well as Azure Cosmos DB, If you want to work with NoSQL database again, and if your database is dealing with more and more transaction, I think that Azure Cosmos DB is the right choice. So it's all depend upon the scale. I mean the requirement, and yeah. So as we explored, like access key is already we explored, and these are the keys, two keys, and you can rotate the keys. Like if you click on this refresh, actually it will update this key. So like this, if something happened, like someone have cracked your keys, so that time you can rotate this key. So basically it's very useful, this functionality, while dealing with those kind of scenarios. And if you go to the overview, yeah, you will here you will get all those information, like resource group, what resource group is used, locations, and the subscriptions, and other stuff. Okay, and from here also you can open this concepts like queues, tables, containers in Explorer. Okay, so with this, I just want to thank you all for listening. And Sugas, let me know if there is any question.
Yeah, I think there are no questions, Gautam. So, guys, if you have any questions, you can reach out to him in his Twitter handle, GautamKK7, and yeah, he'll be happy to answer.
Yeah,
Thanks, Gautam. So, thanks for the demo.
yeah. Thank you, Sugas, and
Yeah, thank
thank
you.
you all. Yeah, have a
Yeah,
good day. Bye.
bye, Gautam. Okay, so next up we have Murali. Like he'll be talking about how to get started with SQL machine learning services with Python. So over to you, Murali.
Thank you, Sugas. Are you able to hear me, Sugas?
Yeah, yes, Murali.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sharing my screen.
Sure.
So okay,
Yeah.
so today I'm going to talk about getting started with the SQL machine learning services with the Python. So I'm Muralidharan. So I'm working as an associate director in a company called Quanticate. Okay, so today we'll talk about what is the SQL Server machine learning services, how to install, how to enable, and we will see a quick demo of it. Okay, so the next goes to, okay, on an overview, so we want to understand, so why the machine learning services is required on top of the RDBMS, and what are the other products that Microsoft providing for us on top of the for the machine learning services, and how these machine learning services fits into the SQL Server. So these are the concepts that we are going to see in the overview. So first, let's talk about the data science. So in data science, if you look at when you approach in a data science, say I have a problem and I want to identify whether this credit card or any finance transaction is fraudulent or not. So then when we approach the data scientists, so what they will do is basically they wanted to understand, so what are the transactions can happen in an organizations, and they will identify what are the solutions or the algorithms that can be fit into this problem, and they will require the data, then they will analyze the data, then they will build the model, then it will be evaluated, then it will be used into the productions. So the modeling and evaluation is a kind of a recurring process. So whenever you want to make an improvement on your analysis, then we need to tweak the model and we need to evaluate again, then it will be deployed again. Okay, so this is the typical process of the data science. So first we need to identify the business problem, then we need to identify which algorithm it will suit, then collect the data, analyze the data, build model, and deploy it. Okay, so next we'll see in little very closer how this data scientists work or collect the data from a different environment. If you look at a data scientist, so they are just a purely data scientist. They are not a kind of ETL or in a database administrator kind of a person. So what they will do is when they require a data for a particular problem, so they will be approaching the IT department, say, this is the business problem and I need the data for this. Then the IT team or the software development team or whoever is responsible, they will work out within a different data systems. Then they will collect the data, then they will be feeding into the data scientists. See here, the data might be stored into a diverse system. So it can be from an Oracle database, or it can be from an Azure systems, or it can be any other data sources, or even the email systems, whatever it is. Okay, all this data will be transformed either using the ETL tool or any other tools, and the data will be provided to the data science. So once the data scientists receive the data, then they will be using the Jupyter notebooks or any Python kernels to analyze the data. Then they will build the model. Once they build the model, so still they will be improving. So again, they might be requiring the IT team to get some more data to improve the score or to improve the accuracy of the model. So this is a recurring process. Again, the IT team will connect the different data sources. Then they will do a transformation if required. Then they will send the data to the scientists, and the scientists will work with the build the model or update the model. Then they will be deploying it. So this is a kind of a recurring process until they find a particular accuracy. So here, if you see, the data is transferred from a different system to a different person. So we need to see the security of the data as well. So when it transferred from the, for example, from the credit card information or the sales data, it may be in a secure, or it may be governed under certain rules and regulations of the company, or it might be applied within certain policies. So we need to ensure all the policies are applied before sending the data from the original source system to the data scientist. So this we need to be think about it. So this is this is the problem statement, how the SQL Server machine learning services is addressed. Okay, so let's talk about what are the Microsoft is providing the machine learning product. So there are two different things that Microsoft providing the machine learning products. One is on cloud and another one is the on premises. If you look at the cloud, so there are two different services are available. One is the Azure machine learning services, and the next one is the Azure ML Studio, that is a machine learning studio. On premises, we have this SQL Server ML services, and as well as the Microsoft machine learning server. So let's talk about each one, and we'll see how it works or it fits into the machine learning sites. Okay, so if you look at the machine learning services, it's a completely coding environment. So we need a proper machine learning developer who need to write the algorithm, or even he can import on a third-party algorithms or the libraries that can be used within the Azure ML services. So it supports only the Python, and it is very much useful when you are building a rich, complex machine learning solutions. If you are going for a very simple solutions, then may not be a fit one. Okay, the Azure Machine Learning Studio. So it's the other side. It is a no coding environment, so where you no need to write any code. So there are a lot of drag and drop options. You can drag the controls, and you can easily bind with which algorithm that you want to use. So it's a kind of a canvas-based applications where you can drag and drop and connect the arrow marks. Then you just bind with your minimal code of like in Python, or then it will start working it. And it has the predefined algorithm, so we can use the existing algorithm as is. Okay, so it supports both the Python and the R languages, and it is very much useful for the simple machine learning solutions. So if you are building in a complex solutions and you want to use your own algorithm, then the Azure Machine Learning Services is the best one, not the Machine Learning Studio. Or if you are new to the machine learning and you want to learn more about it, the machine learning, then the preference would be the Azure Machine Learning Studio rather than the Azure ML services. Okay, so once you deploy the machine learning problem or the solutions, then you can deploy it and consume it as a web services into your application. So that is the way the Azure Machine Learning Studio differs from the ML services. Okay, the next one we'll talk about the machine learning server. So this is on the on-premises, so you can install it on your own network, and you can you can have the complete control of the hardware as well as the software of the services. Okay, so it supports the parallel and distributed workloads for the R and Python processes. Okay, it supports both the Python and the R languages. So you can use it is very much useful to build the complex ML solutions. So you can install this machine learning server on the Linux or on a Windows environment. So if you want to use for an R, then you need to use for R tools for Visual Studio, or if you want to use the Python, then you need to use the Python for Visual Studio tools. Okay, and here also the options are same. So you can build the model and deploy it and consume it as via web services into your applications. Okay, so next let's talk about the SQL Server Machine Learning Services, which is more important. Okay, so so here also, if you look at the SQL Server Machine Learning Services, so it can run the Python or script that can directly run into the SQL Server itself. So how we will be executing the CLR code, like in the C# code, how we will be running into the SQL Server memory. The same way you can run R script or the Python script inside the SQL Server itself. So it is called an in-database executions. That means the code will be executed inside the database itself. Okay, so here we can use the third-party or the open source packages for R and Python. For example, like PyTorch or TensorFlow, that it can be easily installed and used within the SQL Server context itself. Okay, so Microsoft is providing called a reverse scale Py and a reverse scale R. So that is used to scalable to improve the scalability of the Python execution, so that can be run in a parallel and a distributed environment. So that's the library developed by Microsoft called the reverse scale Py for Python and the reverse scale R for R languages. And for the R, it can support the OLAP or SQL R utilities also available. Again, this can be used for complex machine learning solutions. And here also you can install, as the SQL Server supports the installation of the Windows environment as well as the Linux. So we can host this application also into the Linux as well as the Windows environments. Okay, so okay, how it executes in the SQL CLR also, what we will do is we'll deploy it, then we will be calling the SQL CLR statements via these stored procedure. So here also the procedure is same from the developer point of view. So the machine learning problem solutions is developed and deployed into SQL Server, and we can, from the third-party applications or from our custom application, we can access them via the stored procedure calls. So we will see how it works as well. Okay, so SQL Server Machine Learning Services for Python. So why we majorly looking into the Python. So Python is a great and easy library, and it has a lot of data processing libraries that can be easily integrated. So that's a reason that we are looking for Python. And it has a lot of advanced analytical tools. So that also can be used to develop the charts as well as the plots that can be used it. And we can use a lot of the open source packages as well, so to bring the intelligence from our data. Okay, so what are the different solutions that SQL Server Machine Learning Services can provide? So there are 4 different categories that it can provide. So one is the classifications, or it is called the categorizations. That means if you are a customer, you want to identify this customer is a good customer or a bad customer. So that kind of categorizations or classifications that can be done. And regressions, so if you want to know how much kind of the price will be increased over the period, so that can be analyzed by using the regressions or the weather. So you can yes, or you can identify what would be the weather for today and tomorrow. So that kind of things can be identified. So recommendations, you can build your own recommendation system by using the machine learning services. And even you can identify the anomaly detection. So for example, if there is a lot of invalid requests comes to your network, that can be identified. Fraudulent transactions can be identified. So those are the major solutions that we can build it by using the SQL machine learning services. Okay, so now let's see how the data scientist will use the SQL machine learning services. Okay, so if you look at the left side, so we have the data scientist workstations, and he can use any Python IDE. He can use the Spider or Ideal, any other Python IDE, he can use it. And when he executes the script, so it goes to the SQL Server. So SQL Server having the ML services as well as the Python runtime, the code will be executed on the SQL Server, and the results will be sent back to the data scientist workstation. So here the data is not transferred over the network. So the data is pulled from the table, and it will be executed within the SQL Server context itself, and only the results will be sent back to the over the network to the client application. So here the data scientist workstations. So this is fine when you look at the data scientist. Again, I'm repeating, the data will not be transferred over the network. The data will be resides in the SQL Server itself. Only the results will be sent back to the data scientist workstations. Now let's see. So I'm developed an application. So I want to use the SQL machine learning services. How I can do that? Yes, we can do that. So what we need to do is from our custom application. So we need to make a stored procedure call, and the SQL server having the context of ML services as well as the Python runtime. It will be execute. So we need to use the SP execute external script, and we need to specify what language it is, and we need to put the script. So we will be seeing what all these parameter and the values, and the Python code will execute, and the results will be sent back to the our client application. So the client application may be in of like VB.NET or C# or even a Java application. So any different applications it can be consumed. Okay, so okay, we'll see. So now we see how we can call it from the application, how the data scientists use the SQL machine learning services. Now let's see how it actually works. So what happens is, if you look at the data table, so here is the actual our data is present. Okay, so based on this data table, the data scientist will build the data model, and it will be deployed into a table called a model table. So this is the original data table, and the data scientists developed the machine learning algorithm, and the model, it will given a model output. This model output will be deployed into the model table. Okay, so we'll see in a third party application. So here the right side we have the application which calls a model. So this call will go as an stored procedure. So this stored procedure in turn it calls the model and executes and return back the result, and the predicted value will be sent to the application. So this is the way it works. So the originally the data table will have all the data. The data scientists will develop the model, and it will be deployed into the model. It will be inserted into the model table. From the client side application, so we will request, then the stored procedure here also there will be a stored procedure. It will execute. It will be executed. It calls the model table. It does all the predictions. Then it returns the value. So this is the way it works. Let's see little complex one. Okay, so we saw how it works. Now we'll see how internally it is defined. Okay, so we know all the SQL server having the exe called SQL server.exe, and when there is a request comes, then for a Python or R, so then the SQL server it sends the request to launchpad.exe. So everything will run into the inside the SQL server context itself. Okay, so the launchpad.exe will be called. Then the launchpad.exe will determine whether it needs to call the R launcher or the Python launcher. So that is the way where we are defining. If you look at the previous slide here, so we are defining what language we want to call it here. So that's the reason. If you put it a R, then it will call the R launcher. If you put it as a Python, then it calls the Python launcher. Okay, so then the Python launcher will calls the R terminal or the Python exe. This is the actual Python executable. So then the code will be executed here. Then it called bxl server.exe. So this is used to communicate the data between the SQL server and the machine learning engine. So that's called the bxl server does, and it in turn calls the SQL satellite. The SQL satellite, it provides the data from the SQL server to the external runtime. Here it can be in a Python or the R terminal. So the data will be sent to over here. So that's the way where it reads and sends. The data transfer will happen here, the SQL satellite to the SQL server. So again, all this data context will be executed within the SQL server itself. Okay, so we'll see very specific to Python how it works. So we have the SQL server exe. The user sends in a request, then it calls the launchpad.exe. We know it's this all the data will be loaded into the Python exe. Then it calls the bxl server.exe. So here it does all the reading and writing of the SQL data via the SQL satellite. Once everything the processing is done, then the result sends back to here via the TCP IP to the SQL server. So this is the where the data will be read and it will be sent to the user. Okay, so what are the key advantages? So here the SQL Server machine learning services, there is no restrictions between the data movement and the data transfer. So it will be executed. No need to look for any governance policy, something like that. So everything will happen there itself. And so the operationalized Python code and model. So we can develop the Python code and it can be deployed as model and it can be consumed. and it can provide because as the SQL Server itself is an enterprise grade application, so it provides the performance and scalability by using the reverse scale pi or reverse scale R. So let's see how to install it. So I have just captured all the screenshots just to understand how to install it. So I have used the SQL Server 2019 on a 2000 on a Windows box. Okay, so we have to install in a very easy way. So we have to use the first option as the custom on. Then it requires the details where it needs to download everything. Then it downloads. So these are the standard things. So I click the new SQL Server installation. So here is the thing. So when you're going to generally when we are installing the SQL Server, by default we will be selecting the database engine services, and if there is any other things that we required, we will be installing it here. But if you look at the machine learning services and language support is added, so here you can select whether you want support for R or Python or Java. So I have chosen the R and Python, so you can see here. So I have selected the R and Python here. So the next step, so it has something called new services. Generally, it won't be. It's not that if you're not installing R or SQL, the Python services. So this has been newly introduced, SQL Server Launchpad. It's another service, so which will be responsible to call the Python runtime or the R terminal services. So here we have to accept the consent as we are installing R and Python. So it's a license agreement. Then we are installing the Pythons and the installation succeeded. So once it succeeded, everything will be green. So all things are done. So now we have installed the SQL Server machine learning services. Okay, so now let's get into the demo. Okay, so for this, I'll be switching to another remote machine. So where I have installed the SQL servers and everything. On the first external scripts enabled. So if you're not turned on this one, you cannot execute the script. So I'm just executing it. So it says one-to-one because I have already turned on. So let me just turn off. And then let's turn on. So now it says it is the external scripts execution is disabled. If I try to execute any external scripts now, it will throw me an error. So it says the external scripts enabled is disabled. So I'm enabling it. So now it's enabled. So now I can execute any external scripts that if the SQL supports that I can execute. Okay, so you can once it is done, we need to restart the SQL services in order to effect it. So let's just start this SQL services. So it's better to restart both the SQL Server instance as well as the Launchpad instance. So let's restart both. Just wait for a few seconds. Okay, so it's getting started. So let's restart the Launchpad as well. Yeah, it's got restarted. So now we'll come back here. So now what I'm going to do is the very simple step. I'm going to do a hello world statement that I'm going to execute it on a SQL server. It's in a Python script. Okay, so here so I'm going to call this is the script. This is the stored procedure name, which is used to run the external stored procedures. I'm specifying the language is Python, and this is the script. So the language and Python, everything need to be in a string. It is not. It should be in a string. It is not something like that. So it should be in a string. So I'm just executing this. Now this will execute and prints the hello world statement. The first time it will be a little slow. So it says, so the statement is executed, and it says the std out message standard output. Okay, so we got the hello world as the output. Now let's go to the little more into the Pythons. So I'm just going to execute where the Python has been installed. So let's see here. So it says the Python has been installed on the SQL Server context. So here you can see here, generally when we install the SQL Server, so we'll get the MS SQL, the version number, and this is the default instance name. Under that, there is a Python services. There everything has been installed. Okay, so as we installed R as well as the Python, so here you can see there is an R services also available. So if you want to run R code, so you can use the R services. All the binaries of the R related things will be present here, and all the Python related things will be present in the Python services. So here you can see the Anaconda distribution details, all the scripts, the external scripts, everything we can put it here. If you want to use any third-party libraries, we can use the site scripts or the libraries that we can use it. Okay, so the next one, so let's go to the, if you want to use any third-party packages, then you need to install it in the site packages folder. Okay, so now let's get into the one more step. So we'll see how we can read the the system version. So then it will install, it will return what version of Python that I'm using it, so that it returns, and when it was released, all these informations are present. So now let's go into the, more. So here, what I'm going to do here is, so I'm saying that language is Python, and I'm having a set of script. It's in a kind of not on a machine learning algorithm, but it's a simple Python programming. So it uses something called text tools libraries. It's a third-party library that I have installed it. Then I'm doing some of the query details, and it returns the first best match from the given string. So again, we are not yet involved into the machine learning, just we are going into the Python, and now we are using the third-party libraries. So let's see. So it says that a Ipsum statement is present with some of the accuracy details. So here I'm just giving a kind of information. So here we are not going to see what is machine learning, how to write the machine learning program. So just we are giving how to use the machine learning if you are good at the machine learning. Okay, so next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the pandas library. It is used to manipulate all the data frames or the data, basically the data table or what. So that is the next third-party library, and I'm using the NumPy. So the NumPy is mainly used to do a lot of numerical analysis. Okay, so here if you look at the statement, I'll just minimize this. Okay, so if you look at the statement here, we have only the language and script. If you look at here, so we have the language and the script, and the script something having, it's called output data set, and it accepts the input, and it returns something called the results. So we will see the differences one by one. First, let's execute. It just prints the random numbers. So it prints the 100 random numbers as a float weight numbers. Okay, so what it does is the pandas data frame, the pandas, I'm requesting give me the NumPy random number of size 100. So that's what it's returning it. Okay, then what I'm doing is, this is the input parameters. I'm not passing any of the input parameters, just on empty. But when it returns, the return statement will be assigned into the result variable, and it is returning as a kind of a set, and the set name, the column name, you can even say the output name, the output variable name. It may return the multiple output column of values. So I'm specifying the column name as the density, and the data type is float, and it should not be not null. So this is used when we generally use the SQL Server. So we will use something called output parameters. So the output, we will be defining what kind of output it returns. It's very similar to that. So this stored procedure executes, and it is the output, and the output name, the column name, I'm specifying as the density. So when I execute, so that's the reason it gives the density as the values. Yeah. Okay, so this is the one way of kind of looking into the Python and with the third-party libraries with the SQL Server machine learning services. Now let's see some more different examples here. So here what I'm going to do is, so here what we did was we directly executed the stored procedure with the Python script, and we got the results within the SQL Server. So this is fine. But when we want to call this data from a third party or from custom applications, what we need to do here is, so we need to create a procedure, and it can accept the optional the procedure with the optional parameters. It's up to us how many parameters that we want to pass. Okay, so I have defined it should accept the 3 parameters, all are integer parameters. Then, so here is the Python code. So it does the same kind of random numbers, but what I did was I have given everything as the parameters here. So whatever here we have hard coded everything. Okay, so here we are not parameterized the Python code or the Python script, but in the later I want to call it from the third-party applications or the custom application. So I want to parameterize. So I have made it everything as a parameterized, so which will accept these 3 parameters. Okay, and based on these input variables, same the pandas will generate the values, and it puts into the output, and we got the value into the results, and it will be written in a column called density. Okay, so here I'm specifying the input is empty. Okay, the parameters whatever I want to pass is called my numbers. Okay, and what is the mean and what is the standard deviation. So these are the things that I'm passing it. So these are the parameter names, and the parameter values I'm mapping it from the original stored procedure to the Python script here. So I have parameterized. So this parameter is n number of parameters we can give, and we need to specify what are the parameters that we are going to pass it over here. So when I execute this stored procedure, so I have already created it. So if I execute it, definitely it will throw an error. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this stored procedure. So it is a normal stored procedure call. So we are going to call the execute stored procedure name with the parameters. Then in turn, this calls the stored procedure. This stored procedure my Python normalizations will call the external script, and in turn it calls the pandas framework, and it executes the result and it returns back. So now let's go and see here. So let's execute. So we'll be getting whenever we execute, the values will be different, but we know that it is called. But when we are calling this from the application, the end user or the end application will not be knowing it what kind of script we are using inside, whether it is called based on the Python, or it can be an R, or it can be a Java, anything that it will be basically kind of an abstractions to the outside world. So we will not be, or the end user will not be knowing what kind of scripts that we have used, or what kind of algorithm that we have used it. So that way the it is abstracted. Okay, so now let's see into that. So let's go and see into a different problem. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build the iris model. So I have built all the data over here based on some of the scripts. So sorry. Okay. So I have built the iris data set with the sample data. If you look at the data here for the iris, so we can see all this data. So I have different sepal length, width, petal length, and width, and everything. So I have stored into a table, on the table called iris data. So now let's see how we can query this iris data table. So as I said, we have to develop or train the model based on our own algorithm. It can be a machine learning algorithm. Then the model can be deployed into a table, and the deployed model can be accessed via our applications. So now let's see. So here is the stored procedure which generates the model. So what it does is it uses the pickle for create the model, and it uses the scikit-learn naive Bayes algorithm with the Gaussian INB, and it does the trained model based on the data. Okay, so here you can see the input data. The earlier demo we didn't use this input data. We pass on empty. Here what I'm saying here is you select the column names. Okay, select the values from this iris data table. So this is what I'm mentioning it here, and I'm mapping all these values over here. What should be the data structure? So what is the length and everything? I'm mapping all the input values, and I'm using the naive Bayes Gaussian algorithm to generate the model. Once the model is developed and it is coming as an output, so here you can see here it is coming as the output. Okay, the input param is the binary data, and the output is the trained model. So this trained model, what I'm doing here is I have a table called iris models. I'm deploying into the iris model database. So this is the stored procedure, and we use the machine learning algorithm, and the model will be given as output. So here, if you look at the generate iris model data, the stored procedure, I'm calling it here with the model details. So it's nothing but the model value. I'm passing it. Okay, and it comes as the output. And what I'm doing is I'm inserting into the models table as the output parameter value. So if you look at the iris models table, so we have only one record, because we have used only one model we have generated and deployed. So, and it is named with the naive Bayes model. Okay, so now we basically here we use the pickle we have used the machine learning algorithm. We built the model and we deployed into the models table. Okay, so now let's come back here. So when I want to consuming it from the third-party application, so I have created one more stored procedure, because this stored procedure only knows and it will be shared with the outside world, outside to the SQL server, so that the third-party applications or the application can be consumed. Okay, so here also I'm using the same thing. So this procedure is same. So here I'm using the I want to use the load model and all. So I have used the pickle, and I have loaded the model from the navy bias model. I have loaded it. So here also I'm passing the input from the iris data table, and I'm saying what kind of model it should be used and what should be the output. So here you can see I wanted on three different columns as the output. So first of all, I have wanted the prediction. So these are the output variables that comes from the this data. Okay, so now let me go and see execute this predictive species. So when I execute this, so it will go and analyze. It uses all the data from the iris table, and it does the predictions, and it returns me the values. So this is the way when you want to consume it from the third party or application. So we have to call this stored procedure. Then you have to pass the input parameters, and the results can be a table or it can be a plot, anything that you can return it based on your requirements. Sugas, is there is any questions from anyone? Sugas.
No more.
Okay, so those are the major points that I want to cover for the SQL machine learning services. So again, I'm repeating only one thing. So the major problem solved with the SQL machine learning services is the data transfer from the SQL server to the outside world will be controlled. So we no need to worry about much governance and the policy issues. Everything will be covered, and the data will be securely stored into the database server itself. As the SQL server will have the more memory and the capacity, the execution speed also will be good. So there will be a performance hit when you use a CPU as well as the GPU. So always use the GPU so that you will get a better performance. Okay, so few more things just I want to highlight. So you might be or if you attended the earlier sessions with the TechMeet 360, so we had something called Azure Data Studio, which supports the notebooks. The notebooks is nothing but a kind of scripting engine that you can execute the Python or the or SQL, everything that you can execute it. Okay, so if you want to maintain the packages in a kind of a UI environment, then you can use the Azure Data Studio, and it has an option called Manage Packages. Okay, then it returns what are the packages that in this machine or the server, whichever that you have connected, that it has been installed. And if you want to install, and you can use a simple search and you can use it. So this is the another easiest way to install the Python third-party packages for your machine learning data studio. Okay, and even you can use the Azure Data Studio on your client-side applications. Currently, I have installed it on the same server. So if you want to install it on our local machine and you can install it, still you can connect it via the connections option. So for example, so you can use the connections like this. Let me just open it. So you can so something called there is a library called SQL machine learning utilities from the Microsoft. So you can use the connections, and we have to specify what is the connection string and everything. Then we can load the data. So again, the data will not be loaded. So only the script will be sent to the SQL server, and the results will be sent back to the Azure Data Studio. So this is the another option that where you can use this. On top of it, even you can use the Visual Studio for code also. So Visual Studio for code as well. So that also can be used as the one of the Python editor for your SQL machine learning services. So if there is any questions, please let me know, or if you can post it into the YouTube channel, so I will address it. And here are my contact details.
Yeah. So
And
if you have any
thanks.
questions, yeah, thanks, Murali. Like if you have any questions, you can reach out to him in his Twitter handle, Muralidharan D. Like it's available in the scroller. You can reach out to him, and yeah. And thanks, Murali. Like thanks for the demo, and thanks for your time.
Thanks for opportunity as well, Sugas. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Um, okay. So I think so we came to the like this is the last session of data platform conference. So the last session is we are going to see what's the top five dev tools to manage your Azure SQL database. Like in all these sessions, we already came across these tools. For example, SQL Server Management Studio and Azure Data Studio and Visual Studio Code, etc., etc. So as a developer, let's say I'm not more into a DB or some kind of stuff. Basically, I just want to know what the records, and let's say I want to do some basic operations like creating tables, creating database, and querying some data and exporting the data into CSV or JSON. So it's not necessary like for these kind of operations you need to actually go to Azure portal. It's not necessary. Like you can, there are many other tools with greater extensions, and you can actually use that tool for these kind of operations. For every operation, it's not necessary to go to Azure portal. So that's what I'm going to show you, like what are the tools and how we can download it and how we can use it, and what's my favorite tool, and we'll see in the upcoming session. Okay, so just a small introduction about me. Like I am Suhas. I am a senior software engineer for past 3 plus years. So I am in this IT for the past 3 plus years. So I write blogs at techne360.com, and I am also a Microsoft MVP at for developer technologies. And to know more about me, you can visit my portfolio. My portfolio is at devsuhas.com. So I write blogs about Angular, C Sharp, .NET, Visual Studio Code, Azure sometimes, and some problem solving about blogs, etc. So this is a small introduction, and so I just have only this one slide, and directly we'll jump on to the demo, like how we can install these tools and how we can consume it. So some of the I would say the top five tools that's being used by most of the engineers or DBAs. So I would say these are the top five. The first one is SQL Server Management Studio. This tool is being used by most of the members, but this tool you should make sure you have good configuration. Like SSMS, it's a kind of an high load tool. If you have a good configuration, you can go for it. Or else these tool it this tool has all kinds of operations. So this tool can also be used for a DBA, like database administrator, to view how the query is being performed, and that's an option which is called as execution plan. You can actually look through a query execution plan, and you can make sure whether the query is performing well or not, and you can make some adjustments to increase the performance of the query. Like SQL Server Management Studio is actually for DBAs or full stack developers who do more research on database queries. Like Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code is for developers who just wants to read or query data from the database, or let's say if you want to create a new table, or just do some basic operations, you can go for Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. And the fourth one is my favorite one. Like that's my first one in the list, Azure Data Studio. You can actually connect to Azure SQL Database in Azure Data Studio, and you can actually create widgets out of data. Let's say I have data, and I need to create a bar chart or a pie chart, and let's say I need to view it in Azure Data Studio. It's completely possible. You can create a good charts which gives you a visual representation of your data. So that's one good thing in Azure Data Studio. And actually you can create a SQL server and SQL database from Azure Data Studio. Like in Vignesh, in Vignesh Money session, like he mentioned, he was creating the SQL server and the SQL database from the Azure portal. The same can be done from Azure Data Studio. So that's also possible. You don't need, it's not necessary to go to Azure portal to create these things. You can also do it from Azure Data Studio. And there are some cool things that you can do with Data Studio. I'll show you in the demo. And the last one is the data grip. So let's say if you're a fan of JetBrains, some people they use only JetBrains products for their editors. Like there are a lot of cool products in JetBrains. So that this product data group, it's also from JetBrains. You can actually connect through, whether your local database or Azure SQL. You can just give your connection string and you can able to perform operations. So in data group, you can just do some basic operations. You cannot create database or create things, but you can just query and delete stuff. So these are some of the top 5 tools. Most of developers or DBAs use to query or perform some operations. So that's it. So we'll just jump onto the demo and we'll see the tools, what we can do with these tools, and what can be done. If you have any questions, just raise it in the comments, guys. I'm happy to answer at any time. So let me go to the demo. So I'll just minimize this one. The first one I want to show you is SQL Server Management Studio. So let me open it. Okay. So this is SQL Server Management Studio. So before going to this, so let me also go to the Azure portal. Okay. So this is my Azure portal. Like here, I have created a server. So let me go to my server. So I have a resource group which is called as Talklify, and inside Talklify resource group, I have a server which is named as Talklify, and every server has its own database. So here I have two database, Talklify demo and test database. Like if I go to Talklify demo, I can able to see how my query is performing. I can able to actually monitor it, as Gowtham mentioned. Um, so actually in Azure portal also you can able to query, as Vignesh mentioned. So I'm going to connect to my database. So let me go connect, and okay. So here, so this is my Talkify database, and here I have a table which is called as person, and I can perform some query operation. So select star from let's say persons, and I can just run this query, and yeah. So I have two records, and I can able to save query. You can also export data as JSON, CSV, or XML, and you can also save query and you can also use it later. So this querying part can also be done in Azure portal. It's not necessary you have to go for any other third-party tools. You can do queries from Azure portal. So that's what I want to show. But as a developer, it's not necessary every time you want to go to Azure portal. But just I want to show you that querying is also possible from Azure portal. So the next thing is the first one is SQL Server Management Studio, which is one of the most commonly used by most of the users. This is the most powerful tool, I would say, for querying and for performing operations on your database. You can we can also set securities on your database, etc. So let us see how we can connect our Azure SQL database in SQL Server Management Studio. So before going to that, I'll also show you. So let me open this one, and let me go to uh, SQL Server Management Studio download. So if you just type this, there'll be an first link which is download SQL Server Management Studio. So just go to this link, and so that'll be a first option. Download SQL Server Management Studio and just click and install it, and that's it. And you are ready to use SQL Server Management Studio. So just simple steps, guys. Like if you just click this, there'll be an exe, and just click next, and your SQL Server Management Studio will be installed. So once it is installed, so it would be opening something like this. Yeah, I know the UI is very much older, but yeah, like it's one of the powerful tool. Uh, like if you want to connect to a database engine, like just click connect and database, select database engine, and here I already have pasted this connection string here. Like where you can get this connection string. So just go to your Azure portal. So this is my Azure portal, and if I go to database, I have an option called connection strings. Like if I go to connection string, so this is my ADO.NET connection string. Like it's not necessary you have to entirely copy paste this thing. So this is the main important one. TCP Doclified or database Windows.net and on 433. Just copy and paste this here, and you will have an SQL Server authentication for your database. Even if you have Active Directory, you are able to log in the SQL Server Management Studio. So for now, I'm going with SQL Server authentication, and I'm going to give the password, and I'm going to say just connect. So this will connect my Azure SQL database into SQL Server Management Studio. So basically, I can able to see the two database. As Vignesh mentioned in this session, you can also configure firewalls for your database. Like let me go and show you the network restriction. Okay, where is that? So security center performance. Okay, I think it's under server. Okay, so let me backup. Yeah, firewalls and virtual networks. So here in this server, like I have, gave access to all the IPs. So basically, like starting from 0 to 255 or 255. So wherever, from whichever system I want to access, I can able to access this database. So I just added this firewall. So I can able to, access these two database. So let us see if we can, query stuffs. So let me go to tables, and in Talkify demo, I will have a table which is called as, DBO persons. I can just right click and say select top 1,000, and I can able to, do query stuffs in from SSMS. As I said, unless and until if your machine have good configuration, just go for it. As you see, there is some lagging. The system software is kind of lagging, but yeah, like somehow I can able to retrieve the rows, and this is the results I can able to see, like the records which we were seeing in the Azure portal. I can able to see it in SQL Server Management Studio. Like all kinds of operations can be done in SQL Server Management Studio, like insert or select or delete, etc. And you can also create tables. You can just right click and say new table, and you can give some values, or if you want you can also create queries and run on this respective database. So it's very simple, and but as I said, yeah, it performs slower in a low configuration machine. Like I'm going to give some column name. So let's say ID, and data type would be IN by default, and NCAR name, and just leave it as something like this. And I'm just going to hit save, and it's asking for me a table name. So table name can be employee, and I'm just going to say okay. Hopefully it will create a table in my SQL database. I think it has created. So let me close this one and just me refresh. Yeah, so I now have a table called employee. So I can also able to create tables, and I can also able to query it. You can also right click. You can delete Azure SQL database in SQL Server Management Studio. It's not necessary that you have to go to Azure portal for deleting your Azure SQL database. You can just do it from SQL Server Management Studio, and you can also create a database from a SQL Server Management Studio. So it's not necessary you have to go to Azure portal. So you can just click new database, and the same thing like the Vignesh showed you, like you have to select a tier like basic or general or hyperscale serverless, etc. The same stuffs you have to do it from SQL Server Management Studio, and if you click save, like there'll be a new database created within couple of minutes. So these kind of operations can be done in SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm just waiting for the pop-up. Like there'll be a pop-up which will ask you to fill the respective database name and choose a tier, etc. So yeah, it keeps on loading. Um, so let us wait for a minute, like if that pop-up shows up. And one more thing, what you can do is what you can do in SQL Server Management Studio is the execution plan. Okay, so I'll just show you, and we'll just jump on to the execution plan. So here, just have to give the database name, and here, if you go to options, this is where you will select the tiers like basic tier or serverless or hyperscale, and your consumption model, vCore, etc. And based upon that, the database will be created. So the edition and the max size, you can able to select these stuffs, and if you click OK, and the database will be created. So I'm not going to do that because it will take around 4 to 5 minutes for deployment from SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm not going to do that. But I just want to show you, basically you can create a database from Azure SQL Database from SQL Server Management Studio. So coming back to SQL Server Management Studio, like you can actually do an execution plan for your query. Like what is an execution plan? It is basically a chart where it displays your query performance. So let me just enable it. So yeah, include actual execution plan, and I'm just going to execute. So there'll be a tab which is called execution plan. Like here, this is a chart. So this is a kind of different topic, I would say. If you want to know how your query is being executed, how fast it is being executed, like if you want to find anything going wrong in your query, execution plan is the right place to look into. So this thing can be done in SQL Server Management Studio. So this is a kind of different topic. I'll let you to explore, like what is an execution plan and what are the things you want to learn. But for now, to give what is an execution plan, it's just a place where you can see the performance of your query, and you can also see where it is going wrong and how is the reads and writes going on in your query. So this execution plan can be viewed in SQL Server Management Studio. And yeah, so these kind of stuffs can be done in SQL Server Management Studio. Like you can connect, you can create database, create tables, delete records, insert records, etc., etc. Okay. So this is about SQL Server Management Studio. Like if you have any doubts regarding this, just post it in the comments. So this is the I have said only 10% of what you can do in SQL Server Management Studio. Like there are a lot of things you can do with SQL Server Management Studio. You can do various operations with data in SSMS. Like if you have any doubts, just post it in the comments. Like we'll go to the next tool. So that's about SQL Server Management Studio. So I'll just close it. The next one I want to show you is Visual Studio. So let me go to Visual Studio. Okay. So this is Visual Studio. Like let me show how you can download this. So just go for any search and just say Visual Studio download, or else there's a link. There is also a link which is called as visualstudio.com. If you go like there will be options to download Visual Studio. We'll also see Visual Studio Code later, but now we'll concentrate on Visual Studio. Like here we have three editions: community, professional, and enterprise. Like community, it is a kind of a free edition, like anyone can download and use it. It's a kind of an if you want to try out Visual Studio, you can just download it. Professional and enterprise, it's kind of a paid one. There is some limitations between professional and enterprise, but yeah, like if you want to get full access of Visual Studio, full features of Visual Studio, you have to go for enterprise edition. So you can just download and just click download, and there'll be an installation, and you have to just select the features if you want to try out in Visual Studio, and just select the features you want to try out and click install. That's it, simple as that. And if you want to install Visual Studio, make sure you have enough configurations, enough 16 GB RAM, and enough storage in your machine, because it's a kind of an hard tool, because it has a lot of operations in it. So just install it, and once you install and once you open Visual Studio, it will be looking something like this. So how how you can access Visual Azure SQL Database in Visual Studio? So there are three important windows: Cloud Explorer and Server Explorer and Toolbox. But yeah, these two are important: Cloud Explorer and Server Explorer. Like how these windows, it won't be available. When you open Visual Studio, like how you can get it? Just go to View, and here you can go for Cloud Explorer. Okay. So if you click Cloud Explorer, this window will be opened, and it will ask you to sign in. So currently I have signed in one of my account, and in my account I have four subscriptions. If I open subscriptions, I can able to see what are the resources that has been actually inside the subscription. So here, so in one of my subscription, I have app service plan, app services, some virtual machine, etc. And if I just minimize it, and if I open this subscription, so here in this subscription I have SQL database and SQL server. So as you can see, there's a server which is called as Talklify, which I created it yesterday. And here I have this database. Like if I want to do some operations in this database, just right click and just say open SQL server object explorer. So just click on this one, and it will redirect to you to server explorer. Okay. So it will be redirect to server explorer, and here it will show you the Azure SQL database. So this is the server, Talklify server, and inside this Talklify server I have Talklify demo database, the same structure as you see in as we saw in SQL Server Management Studio. So we have the server, and we have the database. So nothing much, like it's very simple. Just sign into your respective Azure account, and choose a database, and just right click and just say open SQL Server Object Explorer, and it will be automatically open. Okay, so let us try to see whether is there are any tables here. So let me just do a refresh, because we added a new table here. Okay, so let us wait for a couple of minutes to refresh. Yeah, so here we have two tables, persons and employee. Like if I want to query data, I can just say okay, it doesn't have that option. So let me open a new query explorer. So new query, and I'm going to say select star from persons. So I'm just going to select and run the query, and I can able to see the records in Visual Studio. So the same thing we done in SQL Server Management Studio. This can also be done in Visual Studio. So here also we have this execution plan option. So if you just select, and if I run this query, I could able to see execution plan in Visual Studio. So it's not necessary that you have to use SSMS. You can also use Visual Studio to see the execution plan. And one more. So let us see. I'm just checking if I can export this PDF. Okay. So this is one more option, like you can say if I want to result as a grid, as a text, or a file. If I select file and if I execute, so the results it will be actually stored in a .txt file. So let's say I don't want to store it in txt. I just want to view it as a grid. You can just run, and you can just view it as a grid. Yeah, so here I have this execution plan, etc. So you can also, as I mentioned, you can also insert, create tables, etc. And but you cannot, create a database from Visual Studio. In SSMS, you can create a database in a SQL Server, but in Visual Studio you cannot do that. You can just, new query. You can just do queries on a database. But you can delete a table in a database. Okay, you cannot create a database, but you can delete a table in database. You can perform operations, what kind of operations in a respective database: create tables, edit tables, update tables, delete tables. You can add keys, foreign keys, primary keys, etc. but you cannot create a database in Visual Studio. Here, one more option I want to highlight is execution plan, which will be very much helpful. Okay. Um, yeah. So this is this is what can be done in from Visual Studio. If you are a developer using more Visual Studio, if you are a full stack, definitely you will Visual Studio a lot much. Basically, you can also view the data from Visual Studio. It's not necessary that you have to go to Azure portal every time for querying database. So this is also one of the way of querying DB and showing viewing the data. The next thing I want to show you is Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let me try to open it. Okay, so this is my Visual Studio Code. So let me show you how you can download this one. Okay, so just go go to code.visualstudio.com. That's it. Just go to this site code.visualstudio.com and say download for Windows. And Visual Studio Code is a very lightweight tool. It performs very much faster if you have a good configuration. But yeah, it's a very lightweight tool. Even it performs well even in 8 GB of RAM. Uh, this tool, it introduced as a text editor. So it's just kind of a notepad, like it was introduced like notepad. But as the time goes on, actually, this VS Code became more of an IDE. Basically, Visual Studio is an IDE. Visual Studio, like why it's an IDE? Because so in an IDE you can actually code, debug, or deploy your solution. So that's what we call it as an IDE. But VS Code, it's actually introduced as a text editor. But with the power of extensions, it has a lot of extensions. So let's say I want to debug C# application. I have an extension called as debug, debugger, C# debugger. I can install it, and I can also debug applications. So with the power of extensions, actually VS Code became an IDE, and for every language, it has its own set of extensions. It also has Python debugger and Java debugger and C# debugger. So using these types of extensions, it actually became an IDE. Okay. So going back to Visual Studio, so once you install Visual Studio, it will be looking something like this, and here we have an option called extensions. So if you go to extensions, there are a lot of extensions, around 15K to 16K extensions in Visual Studio. So just search for a database, and yeah. So just a minute, guys. I forgot that. Yeah, SQL Server. Sorry, it's not database. It's SQL Server. Yeah. So it's this one, SQL Server MS SQL extension. You can just search for it and just install this extension. So once you install it, um, yeah, like you can also install SQL tools. There are a lot of extensions, but I prefer SQL Server. And once you install it, there'll be an icon, something like this. Okay. So there'll be an icon, something like this, database icon, and here actually you can connect database in VS Code. So once you install it, it's actually loads. So here, so this is my local database. I can able to database which is in my local box. So let me see how I can connect my Azure SQL here. So just we have an option called add new connection, and here it will ask for the connection string. So let me go to the Azure portal, and let me try to get the connection string. So let me go to the overview, and let me go to Talklify demo, and then here I will be having the connection strings. So let me copy it, and I need to do some modifications. So basically, I need to update the password. So as you see here, that'll be only your password. So I need to update the connection string with my password. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, I have updated it and I have copied my connection string. And if I go to VS Code, so here I have to paste that connection string. So just paste the connection string and just click enter, and it will ask for a profile name, which is an optional. For now, I'm naming it as Stocklify and just clicking enter. Hopefully, I think it will be connected to my Azure SQL database. So I'll just have to wait for couple a minute. Yeah. So as you can see, my database has been connected in my VS Code, and I can actually go for my look for my tables. So here are the same tables, employee and persons, and I can just right click and just say select top 1000. So I'm basically performing some operations in my database. Yeah. Okay. So here I won't there won't be any record. So let me do select star from sorry select star from persons, and let me just run it. Yeah. So here you can see. Okay, where is this? So here you can see I can able to see my records, which is present in Azure SQL database. Okay, and I can also able to export this record as CSV or JSON. So basically this is as JSON and this is basically an Excel. So you can export data in VS Code, which is not possible in Visual Studio. In VS Code, you can actually export data as CSV or JSON or Excel. So just click it, and it will ask for a file name, and you can actually export it. It's very simple. You can also do insert operations or delete records, insert records, and create tables, etc. But you cannot create a database. Here we have only to option like to add only a new connection. You cannot create database. You cannot create Azure SQL database from VS Code. You can just do perform operations. You can drop table, delete table, etc. But you cannot create database from VS Code. Okay. My favorite option in VS Code is this export stuffs. So export CSV, JSON, etc. So this operation will be very much useful. And yeah, you can run lot of queries. You can type queries, and you can save it, and you can export it, etc. VS Code is a very lightweight tool. If you are interested to try out, I suggest you to try out this tool because it's one of the good tool with which runs in a very low configuration also. Like even if you have only 8 GB RAM, this VS Code will perform very much faster because it's a kind of an Electron application. It performs very much faster. Okay. Um, so this is about Visual Studio Code. So we saw three tools: SSMS, Visual Studio, and Visual Studio Code. SSMS is a kind of an DBA tool, pure of DBA tool, and if they want to view the execution plan and to see how queries are performing, and if you have good configuration, you can go for SSMS. The same applies for Visual Studio. If you have good configuration, just go for it. If you have just 8 GB of RAM, and if you have some low configuration mission, just go for Visual Studio Code, which performs very much faster. And as you can see, I just uh, I just connected my Azure SQL database and just coded it within a couple of minutes. It's very much faster, and I can also export data as CSV, JSON, etc. So these are the three tools. The next tool is my favorite one. Like that's my I would also recommend it for you, which is called as Azure Data Studio. So let me open Azure Data Studio. Okay, so it's actually loading. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this is Azure Data Studio. It similarly looks like Visual Studio Code, but yeah, it kinds dozens of operations extra than Visual Studio Code. So in this Azure Data Studio, like how you can connect through a database, like I already have my local database. Here I can able to view my local database, but how you can connect Azure SQL database? It's very simple. just say new connection, and here I already have this since I already connected my database to Azure Data Studio, it's already been filled up. But here you have to select this Microsoft SQL Server and the server name, which is from the connection string, and here you have to mention the SQL login and some username and the respective password. This process is the same, like wherever in which tool you go, you have to paste either a connection string or you know you have to mention these details. So I have mentioned the database and I'm just going to say connect. So it will take just some seconds and it will actually connect, and that's it guys. Like I have connected, so let me just, so let me close this one, and yeah, so here I can able to view persons database. Right click and I'm going to say select top 1000. Okay, so let us wait for the results. Yeah, so here I will have the results in the grid, the same as we do in now Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or SSMS, the same structure. Here one more thing I want to highlight is let's say so I, I am very much lazy to type select query. Like it would be good if I have some code snippets. If I just type select, as you can see there's a snippet which is called SQL select. If I select this one, so there'll be a predefined query for me, a predefined query for me with a select star from table view name where go etc. So it also added where. Likewise, let's say I can also add snippet for insert. If I type insert, that's a thing which is called SQL insert rows. If I just select this one, it will have the insert query pre-filled. So it's very good, right? Like it will increase your productivity. Like you can just use this insert snippets or select snippets. There are various type of code snippets here. Like there are code snippets for create database or create index, create stored procedure, create table, create temp table, etc. If I select create index, the snippet will be loaded. This is also one of the coolest feature in Azure Data Studio. You can also create custom snippets in VS Code, but actually you have to do it manually. But here in Azure Data Studio, it is actually present by default. Okay, so let us again do select star from persons. Just run this one, so it's going to be the same results. Here, like we have the same option, like save a CSV and save as Excel and save as JSON. Okay, these three operations remains the same. And yeah, and one more option extra is save as XML. So these four options, it's like saving the data. So one important feature I mentioned earlier is the chart. Like you can generate chart based upon this data. So there's an option which is called as chart. Just click it, and here you can see I can able to visually see the data. So here bar chart and donut chart and image and pie chart, scatter. Like you can just have chart based upon your data representation. Like if you want the data in horizontal or vertical, anything, like you can just visualize your data based upon your need. So if you have thousands or millions of records, you can actually visualize your data with a good chart. So this is one of the good highlight in Azure Data Studio. And yeah, there's an thing called, which is also called as table. I can actually select if you want just a table type. Okay, so this is one advantage. One more thing you can do is you can actually, so if you select this TCP Docklify, so there will be a tab opening. So let us wait. Yeah. So here I can actually create a widget. So let's say I need to view this data in widget. So basically this is a kind of an dashboard, right? So basically this is a dashboard. Uh, in this dashboard I can write certain queries and I can able to view it. So I can create multiple widgets and I can able to view it here. So that's a very awesome thing I liked about in Azure Data Studio. So how we can do it? So we'll just create, so that, so once select chart, and you can select the chart type. For now I'm keeping it as table, and there's a thing called create insight. So before this thing I need to save this query somewhere. So I'm going to say Control S, and I'm just saving as desktop. So Talkify demo, and I'm just saving it. Okay, and I'm just running this query. Yeah, connect. So let us wait for the results. Okay, why it's taking a bit. Yeah. Okay, so I got the results, and I'm going to say go to chart, and now I'm going to okay, let us change this to table, and I'm going to say create insight. Okay, so there's an option called create insight, and I'm going to say once I click, so there'll be an JSON thing, JSON stuff. So just copy this, Control C, and go to settings. So how you can go to settings? Just Control comma. There'll be a settings pop up, and here you have to search for database. So just type database, and here we have this dashboard database tabs and dashboard database widgets. So in dashboard database widgets, just select edit in settings.json, just select this option and just go here, and there'll be an dashboard or database.widgets. So there is an already widget. So I'm just going to delete, and I'm pasting the copied stuff, and I'm going to format it. That's it. Okay, so here in this array I just pasted my copied JSON file. So here I'm going to mention the name as um, let's say person details, and I'm just going to save it. So that's it. So that's it. Just create inside, copy the JSON, go to settings.json and paste it. So that's the operation. If I close all these tabs, let me also close this one, and if I just click it, I should be able to see that widget in this dashboard. Okay, let me minimize it. So as you can see, I have mentioned the person details which as my widget name, and here I can able to see the widget. So I can able to refresh it, and I can, let's say I can add multiple widgets. I can, let's say I can query using some where condition, and I can able to I can able to query different widgets. So there can be 8 to 10 widgets with different charts in the server, and you can actually query and see the data. So this operation will be very much useful for DBAs if you want to visualize the data. Instead of querying it, you can create charts, you can create widgets, and you can actually save it in your respective database. So this is one of the coolest feature in Azure Data Studio, which is not possible in SSMS or Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, anything. Like in Azure Data Studio, you can create widgets and you can play around with it. So, and one more thing I want to show you is deployment. So let's say I want to deploy a database from Azure Data Studio. Yes, it's totally possible. Just select deploy a server and select Azure SQL Database and click select, and here you need to select a single elastic pool or database servers. For now I'm selecting single database, and okay, select I accept and next, and here you have to select the subscription, etc. And if you click next, and you have to mention the database name, and you just have to deploy it. So I'm not going to do it because it will take around 3 to 4 minutes. The same thing as you do in Azure portal, you can also do it in Azure Data Studio. So just select stuffs, deploy a server, select deploy a server, select your subscription, select your database, and just click next and deploy. That's it. So in Azure Data Studio, it's a kind of an complete package of doing operations in Azure regarding Azure SQL. You can connect to Azure SQL. You can also deploy database. You can create widgets based upon your data, and there are snippets available. So Azure Data Studio is a complete package, I would say, and this is my topest favorite tool that you can go for. But yeah, a lot of people using SSMS. But yeah, like if you're SSMS is kind of an more for DBAs or basically in SSMS they go for seeing the execution plan or for its securities or policies, etc. But here, if you want to visualize the data and if you want to deploy Azure SQL, Azure Data Studio would be a right choice. Okay, so that's about Azure Data Studio. I want to highlight here snippets are available and you can create widgets and you can deploy stuffs. So these are the main three things which are different from other tools in Azure Data Studio. Okay. Okay, so my last tool is Data Grip. I mentioned like if you are a fan of JetBrains, you can just go to jetbrains.com and just search for Data Grip download. Okay, and go for first link and just click download, and the tool will be downloaded. Actually, all JetBrains products are paid one. If you have a JetBrains license, you can go for it, or for now, if you want, you can just go for free 30-day trial. Okay, so just click download and uh, data grep will be downloaded. The same thing, guys, as I mentioned, if you want to add a new connection, just click add and go for data source. So here, as you see, it supports a lot of database. So Snowflake, AWS, BigQuery, Apache, etc. So there are a lot of database you can actually connect to in data grep. So just click Azure SQL Database and mention your server name. So here I already mentioned talkify.database.net and mention your username and password. And if you click OK, so the database will be connected, something like this. And here you can just go to your table and you can query for it. So let's say select star from persons and just click run. Okay. Yeah, so now I can able to see the data. So here I can copy to database, and I can also export data. I can select. So there are a lot of options available here: CSV, TSV, HTML, JSON, pretty, SQL insert, XML, etc. So there are a lot of export options available, and you can also view as table, tree, text. But yeah, you cannot create a database, but I think you can create a database from DataGrip. Yeah, so it's possible. You can create a database from DataGrip, Azure SQL database. So just click create database and just give your database name and click OK. Your database will be created. You can also create tables, create database, perform delete operations on tables. All part of CRUD operations can be done in database level as well as table level. So yeah, this tool, like if you are a fan of JetBrains products, you can just use it. But yeah, my top favorite one is Azure Data Studio. You can do all type of stuffs in Azure Data Studio. Okay, so I think that's all I had. I think those were top 5 tools where how you can download and how you can use it to the maximum limit. So if you have high configuration missions, go for SSMS, Visual Studio, and if you have low configuration, go for VS Code, Azure Data Studio, and DataGrip. So going back to the PPT, like yeah, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. So in the scroller, you can this is my Twitter handle ng_Suhas. You can reach out to me if you have any doubts. And yeah, so thanks everyone. So thanks for joining. I think we came end of the conference as well as my session. So thanks for joining. So this is my portfolio devsource.com. You can as I said, I write blogs about Angular, C#.net, and you can support me by just following my blog. and thanks for that. Um, yeah. So okay. So that's it, guys. I think it was a okay. So let me go to my Chrome here. Yeah. Yeah, so I think we came to the end of the session, end of the conference. So it was our first edition of it. I think yeah, we got a pretty much good response. So thanks for your support, guys. And also I appreciate your effort and I appreciate your interest towards learning something new on this Saturday. So thanks for that. And so keep supporting us. So I'll also will update my meetup link. So this is our meetup link, meetup.com/talklify community. So you can just go to this meetup.com and just click join. If you click join, you'll be joined to us in this group. So already we have 450 members in this group. If we create any new events in future, you will be notified. So any events will be notified. Definitely we won't spam. It won't spam your email. So just whenever we create an event and when we publish it, you'll get an email. So that's it. So no more emails. For every event, you'll get an email. So that's it. So just click join. You'll be notified of our future events, guys. So once again, I also thank all the audience, all the speakers, for taking their time and showing support to our community. So thanks everyone. Stay safe, guys. Stay home and keep supporting our community. So thanks everyone. Thank you. And yeah, so before closing, so like if you have any comments or feedback, just post it in the Twitter, tag us or send a DM. How to improve this community sessions. Like if you have any positive or negative feedbacks, just send us in Twitter, Talklify at Talklify. That's our Twitter handle. If you have any positive or negative feedbacks, just send us there. We'll try to improve it in the future events, guys. Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone, and stay safe.